Chapter 812. Genius 1 second. Remember love, divided by little? Say net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Lin Tian and the others listened to Whooshing Crocodile's words, nodded slightly, and sped up their descent. Love, go little, say W. Chew. Not long after, great mountains appeared in their field of vision, one after another. Giant trees appeared between the great mountains one after another, grand and majestic. It's true. The mist swallows the life essence of all living creatures, but there are so many big trees in it. Lin Tian sighed. Nirvana abyss is so strange, but it's nothing. There are many strange things in this world. Whooshing Crocodile said. Soon, for people in one crocodile landed on the ground. After landing on the ground at the bottom of the abyss, they could see the environment of this space more clearly. Not only were there mountains and lush plants, but there were also hanging waterfalls in the distance. Amazing! Bai Chiu muttered. The place where they landed happened to be on the edge of a mountain. At this time, many cultivators also landed in this position, and many people rushed quickly into the mountain. Then, not long after, someone exclaimed and found a spiritual herb. 500-year-old willow flower. Spirit-strengthening grass. Nightstone, a precious material for forging high-grade, immortal artifacts. Many people were excited. Lin Tian and the others looked in the direction of the sound, and couldn't help but be a little surprised. This Nirvana abyss was really unusual. They had just entered, and many people found treasures. Ah! Screams sounded, and blood splashed to the side. Damn it! How dare you! Someone roared. In front, someone found a treasure, but then it attracted other cultivators to fight for it. For a time, a cruel battle began in an instant. All kinds of treasure lights and secret techniques were everywhere. Soon, more than a dozen cultivators died on the ground. Lin Tian and the others couldn't help but sigh again. The battle in this heaven region was too fierce, and killing was everywhere. Go, go, go! Grandpa Crocodile will bring you to treasure hunt. Whooshing Crocodile waved its claws and said. In this Nirvana abyss, there were many mountains, and some of the bigger ones were even smaller mountains. The 4 people and 1 crocodile entered the mountain and used their divine senses to scan the surroundings. Not long after, they dug out 2 ordinary spirit roots and some lingjing. However, this was not a big deal. For the group of people, it was nothing. By the way, let me remind you, there are no living ferocious beasts in this abyss, but there are quite a few dead spirits and evil spirits. Whooshing Crocodile said. Some of the cultivators who entered this abyss managed to preserve their bodies after they died. Then, they gradually changed in the mist of death, similar to the malicious ghosts and ghost kings in the Great Tomb. Ah! Just as it finished speaking, another scream rang out from nearby. As far as the eye could see, a decaying old body suddenly stood up from behind an old tree, its withered claws piercing through a cultivator. Immediately after, similar things happened in other places one after another. Some people cried out miserably, while others roared furiously. Lin Tian and the others were slightly surprised. There really are? Grandpa Crocodile has been here twice. If Grandpa Crocodile says there are, then there are. Whooshing Crocodile curled its lips, pointed at a few decaying old corpses, and said, Look carefully. These are the most ordinary dead spirits in this abyss. It's just that their bodies are stronger and they carry corrosive poison, so they are not difficult to deal with. However, some of the stronger ones are very troublesome. Not only are they tyrannical, but their bodies are also wrapped in that gray mist. Even Wuxian-level powerhouses may be killed by them. Lin Tian and the others nodded, indicating that they understood. Then, they once again used their divine senses to scan the mountain and walked to some places further away from the mountain. This mountain was very large. The group walked along this mountain at a very fast speed. After all, there were only 7 days. Under such a time limit, they had to seize every second. About 2 hours later, they walked out of this mountain and found a few pieces of stone jade along the way. They found more than 100 kilograms of lingjing and more than a dozen ordinary spiritual herbs at the same time. Divine medicine? Give me a divine medicine! Whooshing Crocodile howled. Lin Tian directly ignored it. How could divine medicine be so easy to find? The value of that thing was almost comparable to a sacred weapon. In this nirvana abyss, there were unimaginable mountains. It was like another wasteland. The four people and the crocodile walked into another mountain range. In this mountain range, there were old trees. They were shockingly thick and lush, more lush than the outside world. The four people and the crocodile walked into this mountain. 5 powerful divine senses were released to explore the surroundings. Now their strength was very shocking. Although they had not entered the Great Path level, their divine senses were not inferior to ordinary Great Path powerhouses. Whoosh! There was a sound in front of them, bringing with it a foul stench. A withered corpse appeared and rushed toward the group. This was a dead spirit. Its eyes were sunken, and there was a small red dot in each eye. It was its pupil. Lin Tian made his move. With a light flick of his finger, a ray of divine light rushed out and shattered this dead spirit on the spot. Ka! Not far away, the ground exploded, and a large pile of corpses stood up. Among them, there were human corpses, demonic corpses, and even dead spirits with wings on their backs. Moreover, they were all very powerful. Among them, the dead spirit with wings on its back was already comparable to a Great Path cultivator. Its majestic aura of death was appalling. "Let me," Yang Qi said. With a clang, he shook his arm, and a ray of extremely domineering saber light swept out. Slashing sounds rang out one after another. The pile of dead spirits that rushed up was instantly destroyed. Not a single one was left. What a terrifying saber technique. Whooshing crocodile stared. Even Lin Tian was surprised again. This level of saber technique was really amazing. The mountain range was continuous. The group continued forward. Before long, they had searched the entire mountain range and found many things. However, there was nothing of great value. They were all ordinary ling jing and the like. For hours later, the group walked out of the mountain and walked deeper into the abyss. "Wait!" Lin Tian suddenly said. He looked south. In that direction, there was an inconspicuous hill on the ground. There were very few plants on it. The group of people followed his gaze and looked at the small mountain. They asked, "What's wrong?" "Kid, did you find something?" Whooshing crocodile asked. Lin Tian stared at the hill. It looked very ordinary, but it seemed to contain immortal light. The whole mountain was like a qilin lying on the ground. That hill is not simple. There should be something good in it, he said. Hearing that, Bai Ziki and Bai Chio were moved. Whooshing crocodile's eyes lit up. "Let's go. Let's kill our way there. Dig 3 feet into the ground and dig out the treasure," Whooshing crocodile said. It knew that Lin Tian controlled the dragon burial scripture of the celestial venerable Zonglong. He was very familiar with the general trend of heaven and earth and the veins of mountains and rivers. Now that Lin Tian said that the hill was not simple, it must contain extraordinary treasures. Lin Tian did not hesitate. He immediately nodded and led the way. They were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the edge of the hill. "Charge!" The 5 elements crocodile cried out, charging in with a whoosh. However, just as they stepped into the hill, the space shook. A dense killing light rushed out from the ground. Bai Ziki and the others were shocked. This killing light could almost kill a great Tao expert. They attacked at the same time, shattered the killing light, and captured Whooshing crocodile. "Damn, you scared me to death." Whooshing crocodile stared. Lin Tian said, "There is killing aura of the earth vein ahead. If we rush in, even a 3rd-tier great Tao expert will be killed." "Damn it, don't say it all at once." Whooshing crocodile cursed. Lin Tian was speechless. He let the others follow behind him. He walked in front and came to the place where the killing aura of the earth vein gathered. The dragon patterns under his feet spread and extended to the ground. Soon, all the killing aura of the earth vein below was suppressed. "Let's go." Now, his cultivation had reached the 9th tier of immortal ascension. His life origin had transformed and sublimated once. He had also mastered the great Tao. Under such circumstances, his dragon burial scripture was naturally stronger. It was very easy to deal with the killing aura of the earth vein here. Soon, he led the group of people across the killing aura of the earth vein and walked down the hill. There was very little vegetation in the hill. There was a canyon in front of them. The canyon was very deep, and there was a faint white fog intertwining inside. Lin Tian walked toward the small canyon and walked straight in. As they walked, the white fog around them gradually thickened. It even blocked their vision. They could only see within 30 feet at most. They didn't walk for long when they suddenly smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. They saw a stalk of dark green grass growing on the side of a large rock about 10 feet away. The grass stalk was more than 2 inches tall. Its leaves were as big as a baby's palm. They were flowing with strands of sparkling luster. Spirit accumulation elixir. The 5 elements crocodile's eyes lit up. It waved its claws and took it over through the air. It clicked its tongue and said, "I didn't expect that there's actually another world in this inconspicuous small mountain. There's actually such an extraordinary precious medicine. This thing can purify the divine sense again. It is also very valuable to the experts of the Great Tao realm." It seems that no one has ever stepped into this hill. There are no traces of cultivators entering here, Bai Chiu said. The others nodded. It seemed that this place was very natural. There were indeed no traces of other living beings entering here. Lin Tian walked in front and continued forward. Not long after, the space in front of them distorted. There were strands of killing light floating in the air, intertwining with a terrifying aura. It can kill Great Tao cultivators. Whooshing crocodile stared. Lin Tian raised his hand. A dragon seal gathered in his palm and slowly pressed down. Sizzling sounds were heard. He used the dragon patterns to form a seal. In the blink of an eye, the killing light was shattered. It feels so good to control a technique like the dragon burial scripture. Whooshing crocodile clicked his tongue and said. The group followed behind Lin Tian and continued to walk into the depths of the canyon. In the next hour, they encountered a few more traps that could threaten the experts of the Great Tao. However, for Lin Tian, who controlled the dragon burial scripture, they were nothing. The traps were broken one by one, so the group did not face any danger. Soon, they arrived at the depths of the canyon. When they arrived here, the grass stalks on the ground gradually became vigorous. The spiritual energy was rich, and there were many extraordinary spirit herbs. Chapter 813. A genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. As far as the eye could see, the spiritual herbs were at least 2 inches tall. They had a sparkling luster intertwined with each other, and the medicinal fragrance they emitted was extremely strong. They gathered together and did not disperse. It was very extraordinary. When they took a closer look, the age of these spiritual herbs was extremely shocking. Almost all of them had a history of more than 1,000 years. The group was shocked, and some of their eyes lit up. Tempering one's soul, tempering one's blood energy, tempering one's divine power, tempering one's true essence. They really have everything. Whooshing crocodile stared. It could be said that these spiritual medicines alone were worth a lot of treasures. Immediately, the group started to pick all the spiritual herbs here. Kid, are these the treasures you're talking about? They're not bad and have a lot of value. Whooshing crocodile said. These spiritual herbs, a single one was nothing to them, but the advantage was that there were many of them. After refining them, they could increase their strength by a little. It could make their blood chi, physique, divine sense, and divine power stronger. It shouldn't be. There should be other more valuable things. Lin Tian shook his head. Faint dragon light intertwined in his eyes. Suddenly, circles of dragon light spread out from the soles of his feet, extending in all directions. The group knew that he was exploring this mountain, so they did not disturb him and waited quietly at the side. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths passed. At this time, Lin Tian's eyes suddenly flashed with a glimmer of light. He lowered his head and looked at the ground. Below, he said. The group looked at the ground, and a glimmer of light flashed in their eyes. Diggs! Whooshing crocodile was the most active. It directly waved its claws and smashed into the ground. However, unexpectedly, the ground here was very hard. With its current cultivation, it only smashed a little, and its claws were a little numb. This made it could not help but stare. Damn it, what kind of broken ground is this? How can it be so hard? I'll do it. Lin Tiandao. He took a step forward, raised his golden fist, and smashed it into the ground. Suddenly, there was a loud rumble, and a large area of the ground collapsed, sinking several inches. Even the thick fog in the surroundings was blown away. The Bai siblings, Yang Qi, and Wuxing Crocodile were all shocked. What a freak! I'm afraid that even a barbarian king body of the same level can't compare to this body. What's going on with you, kid? Wuxing Crocodile widened its eyes. Lin Tianyi smiled. He didn't say anything and continued to attack. His physical body was undoubtedly the strongest in the group. Soon, he broke through the outer layer of soil, revealing an even harder layer of diamond and iron. At this moment, even though he was using his physical body to pave the way, it was still difficult for him to do so. Use Dao soldiers, Bai Ziki said. Lin Tian nodded. He held up an upper-grade Dao soldier-level longsword and took out the High Heaven Sword scripture before slashing at the ground. The others also had superior-grade Dao soldier-level weapons. They all attacked, causing the adamant and rocks to shatter rapidly. Soon, a quarter of an hour had passed. At this moment, when another layer of adamant and rocks was broken, an extremely dense spiritual qi gushed out, causing the 4 people and 1 crocodile to tremble. All the pores on their bodies seemed to be expanding. At this moment, looking down, under the broken adamantine rocks, there was a large pile of sparkling and translucent crystals. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth was extremely abundant, like a spiritual cave. Immortal Lingjing mine! Wuxing Crocodile's eyes widened, and its saliva almost flowed out. A glint flashed across Lin Tian's eyes, and he hastily took action. He set up a grand sealing formation to suppress the spiritual energy in this place, to prevent other cultivators from discovering it and barging in. He stared down. The pieces of immortal Lingjing were put together. He roughly estimated that there was about 9,000 kilograms of it. It was comparable to 90 million kilograms of Lingjing. Divine treasure! Wuxing Crocodile was excited. At this moment, not only was it shocked, but Bai Qiu was also shocked. Even Bai Ziki and Yang Qi were shocked. With so many pieces of immortal Lingjing piled together, it was enough to make an expert at the peak of Wuzhen jealous, and they would fight for it with their lives. Hurry up and refine it to improve your cultivation, Lin Tian said. The immortal spirit crystal was an amalgamation of pure and fragmented spiritual energy of heaven and earth. To a cultivator, no matter what realm they were in, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth could be used to directly improve their cultivation without any side effects. It was the same even for super experts in the chaotic realm. It was just that the amount of spiritual energy of heaven and earth required was so enormous that it was beyond imagination. Therefore, experts at that level generally did not rely mainly on spiritual qi of heaven and earth to improve their cultivation, but on comprehension. He set up another sealing formation here, and then came to the immortal Lingjing with the Bai siblings and the others. The 4 people and 1 crocodile nodded to each other, and each sat down cross-legged in a position, directly channeling their respective ancient scriptures. In the blink of an eye, the immortal Lingjing in this place emitted a bright light, drowning the 4 people and 1 crocodile. Wang! Lin Tian sat cross-legged on one side, the surface of his body faintly golden, guiding the immortal Lingjing essence here into his body, tempering his divine power again and again, and at the same time, using it to temper his physique. And as usual, next to his life source, the little guy in the divine egg woke up, letting out a happy squeak, and began to absorb the immortal Lingjing essence here with him, causing the patterns on the surface of the divine egg to become brighter. Suddenly, more immortal Lingjing essence rushed toward Lin Tian, drowning him like a shocking waterfall. This scene shocked the other 3 people and 1 crocodile, and they were a little surprised. However, the group quickly calmed down again, and each of them immersed themselves in cultivation. Suddenly, 5 different kinds of light intertwined in this space, causing the immortal Ling Jing in this place to decrease rapidly. And in the blink of an eye, about 1/10 of it was gone. Lin Tian silently cultivated the Heart Sutra of Sun, and the golden light outside his body gradually became stronger as the immortal Lingjing essence entered his body, turning him into a sun. On the side, Baiziki and the others also surged with divine light, completely drowning out this place in an instant. Because the time they could stay in this abyss was very limited, only 7 days. At this time, the group channeled their ancient scriptures to the extreme, and the light they emitted was naturally very dense, causing the immortal Lingjing essence around them to be quickly depleted. Immortal Lingjing essence surged like a river into the group of people. Wang! The golden light outside Lin Tian's body was shockingly dense, and the ripples of Tao laws involuntarily spread, clearly becoming more powerful. At this moment, his divine sense once again came to the boundless world, watching the exchange of day and night, watching the sun rise and set, watching the flowers bloom and wither, watching the 4 seasons change, as usual. He was like a passerby in this world, watching the evolution of all things, watching the exchange of prosperity and decline. Then, the ripples of Tao laws on his body gradually became denser, and more great Tao laws were imprinted in his body, causing his essence, energy, and spirit to rise rapidly. He could feel all of this, but he was very quiet and seemed very calm. Just like this, 10 hours passed in the blink of an eye. At this moment, only about 1/10 of the immortal Lingjing fragments were left in this place. It was also at this time that the ripples of Tao laws on Lin Tian's body reached a critical point, causing him to suddenly open his eyes. Vaguely, 2 extremely hazy rays of light flashed through his eyes. His pupils seemed to have turned into 2 huge universes in an instant. They were extremely deep and difficult to see through. Half-step Great Tao, he muttered to himself. He clenched his fists slightly, and his physique, divine sense, vitality, and divine power all became stronger. Most importantly, he circulated his divine power, and the power of Tao interweaved at the tip of his fist. It didn't show any terrifying fluctuations, but it was vast and terrifying. He took a deep breath. Although he still didn't know what kind of Tao law this was, he didn't care too much about it. Soon he put away all his thoughts, and the ripples of Tao laws also slowly disappeared into his body. Boom! For powerful auras intertwined one after another. Bai Qiu stepped into the 9th heavenly layer. Wuxing Crocodile, Baiziki, and Yangqi all stepped into the half-step Great Tao realm, and the ripples of Tao laws on their bodies became even stronger. This is awesome! Wuxing Crocodile howled. It hadn't been long since they stepped into the 5th heaven, but they had made continuous progress. Now, they were only half a step away from the Great Tao realm. It was really amazing. Throughout history, no one could compare to them. Baiziki and the others also had some intertwining light in their eyes, but they didn't say anything. At this time, there were still a lot of immortal Lingjing fragments left. The 4 people and 1 crocodile all calmed down and began to consolidate their cultivation. Just like this, another hour passed in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the immortal Lingjing fragments in this place were completely consumed, leaving only some immortal Lingjing fragments. The 4 people and 1 crocodile stood up, and their essence, energy, and spirit soared. Every move they made had unparalleled power. The half-step Great Tao realm was still considered the 9th heavenly layer of the connecting immortal realm, but it was far beyond the ordinary 9th heavenly layer. Their combat power was much stronger than ordinary 9th heavenly layer experts. Boy, are there any more treasures here? Wuxing Crocodile asked. No. Lin Tian shook his head. He raised his hand and unlocked the ceiling formation he had set up before. Suddenly, wisps of wind and waves drifted from outside. His ceiling formation was a complete 6th-order peak formation. Not only could it isolate auras, but it could also resist other things. There are still slightly more than 6 days left. Let's go. Let's continue to search for treasures and strive to excavate a few more spiritual crystal mines. Then I will enter the Grand Tao realm in one go. Only by entering the Grand Tao realm can I truly be free, Whooshing Crocodile said. Immediately, Lin Tian led the way, breaking through the earth-veined death traps one after another. Soon, they walked out of the small mountain. They soared into the sky, left the small mountain, and headed to other places. During this process, the number of mountains in this nirvana abyss was shocking. They were connected together, and some of the waterfalls hanging in the air were over 300 meters tall. It was a magnificent sight to the point of being shocking. It's really majestic. It's really hard to imagine the scene in this abyss, Bai Qiu said. Chapter 8:14. Hearing Bai Qiu's words, Lin Tian couldn't help but nod. He had deep feelings about this. The environment in this abyss was indeed extraordinary. The group of people soared into the air and soon landed on the ground. They walked because, in the words of the Five Elements crocodile, walking on the ground would make it easier to find treasures. After all, it was impossible for treasures to float in the air. Most of them were on the ground and underground. Kid, activate the dragon burial scripture and try to dig out a complete divine vein, Whooshing Crocodile shouted. Lin Tian glanced at it. Do you want me to dig out the ancestral dragon vein for you? A complete divine vein was something higher than in source vein. It could only be found by chance. There weren't many in the entire 10 directions celestial domain. Of course, that's great. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes lit up. Get lost! Lin Tian immediately wanted to beat it up. The group walked through the mountain range in this abyss at a very fast speed. During the process, they encountered several undead spirits. However, they were all very ordinary, comparable to the flight realm. Lin Tian easily crushed them into dust. After crossing another 1,000 feet, Lin Tian's expression changed slightly. He slashed out a sword light 100 feet to the left. With a crack, the earth and stone in that place split open, revealing a piece of immortal lingjing the size of a human head. It's comparable to an ordinary lingjing of 20,000 kilograms, Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian raised his hand and pulled it into his hand. With a boom, at this moment, several powerful divine power fluctuations appeared. 3 early-stage immortal ascension cultivators closed in on the 4 people and the crocodile. They all stared at the piece of immortal lingjing in Lin Tian's hand with excitement and greed in their eyes. Hand it over, or die, one of them sneered. The 4 people and the crocodile were speechless. Their group could even kill great Tao masters now. 3 cultivators at the first tier of immortal reaching realm actually wanted to snatch the treasure from their hands and said that they would die if they didn't hand it over. This really made the group speechless, and they felt ashamed. Let me give you 3 little bastards a piece of advice. Go where it's cool. Don't show off your low IQ here, Whooshing Crocodile said. This caused the 3 people's eyes to turn cold, and their killing intent immediately spread out. Things that don't know what's good for them. I originally wanted to give you a way out, but now it seems that there's no need for that. The 3 of them stepped forward and attacked. In that instant, the 3 individuals displayed divine abilities. Concentrated cold light crushed down, all of them aiming for these individuals' vital points, vicious and ruthless. Io, your grandmother. I originally wanted to give you a way out, but now it seems that there is no need for that. Whooshing Crocodile imitated their words. As soon as it finished speaking, it directly extended its claws, covering the sky and the earth, covering the 3 cultivators below at the same time. In an instant, the cold light of the divine abilities that the 3 of them had unleashed was completely crushed. A majestic force surged forth, completely drowning the surrounding space, and smashing the 3 of them into pieces on the spot. This was just a small interlude, but it made Lin Tian and the others once again feel the cruelty of this heaven realm. In this world, they could face the matter of having their treasures stolen by others at any time. Let's go, Lin Tian Dao. The group walked along the mountain range, but they did not find anything after that. Soon, they walked out of the mountain. In front of them, A large number of cultivators were hurrying forward, rushing into the depths. Among these cultivators, some of them were walking in groups, whispering something. We really found a palace. Indeed, the soil layer of a mountain in the depths cracked open, revealing a corner of a palace. There are many Tao patterns on it. How can there be a palace in the Nirvana abyss? This is too strange. It is indeed very strange, but it is precisely because of this that many people are heading there. There are experts who say that there is an extremely high possibility that there are treasures on the level of divine weapons inside, because the Tao patterns on the palace are very unusual and extremely profound. What divine weapon? This group of cultivators was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had rushed far away. Lin Tian and the others looked at the group of cultivators leaving, and naturally, they heard the other party's words and were slightly moved. There is a divine weapon. Whooshing crocodile stared. Go and snatch it. Bai Qiu was very violent. Lin Tian was even more direct. Let's go and take a look. He controlled a quasi-divine weapon, but it only had the word quasi-divine in it. It was not a real divine weapon, but its power was already terrifying. How terrifying would a real divine weapon be? It would definitely be very frightening. Now that they heard that there might be a divine weapon in the palace that suddenly appeared, they naturally wanted to take a look. Immediately, the group followed behind the group of cultivators, and soon, they arrived in front of a very majestic mountain. As far as the eye could see, the ground in the depths of the mountain had cracked open, and the surface had sunk a lot. A corner of the palace was really exposed, and there were densely packed Tao patterns engraved on it. They looked like tadpoles, but also like ancient armor runes. It was very mysterious. These Tao patterns were engraved by a Nirvana realm expert. They are very powerful. Whooshing Crocodile said, it had once reached the peak of Nirvana realm, so it could naturally feel that these Tao patterns were extraordinary. Dong, dong, dong. At this time, there were densely packed cultivators gathered outside this corner of the palace. Many experts were attacking these Tao patterns with supernatural powers and secret techniques. They wanted to destroy them before they could break open a door that led to the inside of the palace. As these cultivators continuously unleashed the light of supernatural powers and secret techniques, the mountain range kept shaking. The soil around this corner of the palace was shaken off bit by bit. Soon, more than 100 breaths passed. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. Finally, the Tao patterns on this corner of the palace door were destroyed, and a gap was opened. Immediately, the eyes of the cultivators gathered and the surroundings lit up. Whoosh! 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 The sound of air being torn apart was heard continuously. The densely packed cultivators all moved and rushed towards that gap. However, in the next moment, a roar suddenly came from that palace. Powerful dead spirits rushed out, and it was not just one. There were dozens of them, and almost all of them were comparable to ordinary great Tao experts. Their ferocious auras were terrifying, and the aura of death spread in all directions. Ah! Among the cultivators who rushed at the front, some screamed and were killed on the spot. The dead spirits that rushed out roared. Each of them was terrifying, causing many cultivators to be terrified. Many people retreated. Humph! A cold snort was heard. A young man stepped forward, and a divine light ape appeared beside him. He directly turned a few dead spirits comparable to great Tao experts into ashes and stepped into the palace. That's Mu Yuan Liang. He's very famous in the central region. It's said that he's about to step into the fourth heaven of the great Tao. Some cultivators were shocked as they recognized this powerful young man. Boom! 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 Almost at the same time, 3 powerful auras rushed out from other directions, crushing a large number of dead spirits. 3 figures stepped forward. Their speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, they stepped into the palace through the gap in the palace. Dong Wenyin, Lu Huashen. These 2 actually came too. In the central region, apart from those few young kings, almost no one is their match. The other person is covered in a vast demonic light. He seems to be a terrifying great Tao realm demon venerable at the 4th heaven of the great Tao. Many cultivators were shocked. Lin Tian and the others stood far away. Naturally, they also felt that these people were very powerful. Their blood chi was very vigorous. Let's go. Charge. There must be treasures inside. At this time, many cultivators could not help but shout. They rushed forward together. In the blink of an eye, a large group of people rushed into the palace. It could be said that it was very strange to find such a palace under the Nirvana abyss. More importantly, the Tao patterns on the palace were not simple. They were very profound. Many people could imagine that such a palace buried under the Nirvana abyss must have a shocking origin. There must be many good things inside. For a time, the sound of the air being torn apart could be heard. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the cultivators here had rushed into the palace. Come, let's go in too. Lin Tiandao. He took the lead. The Bai siblings and the others followed beside him. They were very fast. In an instant, they arrived in front of the palace and stepped inside. The palace was very dark, and the aura of death was very strong. There were many independent small rooms, and all of them were tightly shut. At this time, the place they were in was slightly empty. Cultivators kept pouring in. These cultivators were all very excited when they entered the palace. They all rushed along different paths in search of rare treasures. Lin Tianyi and the others stopped in place for a while. Whooshing Crocodile pointed at a random path, and the group stepped down. Soon, they walked far away. Along the way, they opened many rooms, but they did not find anything. Little Crocodile, the path you pointed is not reliable. Bai Chio said. Lord Crocodile chose randomly. Whooshing Crocodile rolled its eyes. It was too lazy to correct Bai Chio's call of Little Crocodile. The group continued to move forward, opening one room after another. Not long after, they opened the 36th room. Suddenly, a terrifying fog rushed out, and a dense group of death vipers rushed out. These vipers were not thick. They were about the same size as ordinary snakes. They all had sharp teeth and sinister eyes. They were like the evil nether snakes of hell. They looked a little scary and gave people a creepy feeling. Bai Chio's face turned pale. She was so scared that she quickly hid behind Lin Tian and shrank her neck. Although her cultivation was strong and could kill ordinary early-stage great Tao experts, she was still a girl after all. She had an instinctive fear of things like vipers. In fact, if these vipers were a little bigger, about 70 to 80 feet long, she would not be afraid. It was because these vipers were too small, and they rushed out in a dense group that she was shocked. TSK, little girl, you are so timid. Whooshing Crocodile took the opportunity to make fun of her. Lin Tian raised his hand, and the high heaven sword astral flew out, slashing the densely packed venomous snakes on the spot. Why are there so many snakes in here? He was a little curious. These venomous snakes were all dead creatures and did not possess any life aura. They were a type of dead spirit, and there was nothing strange about them. However, for so many dead spirit venomous snakes to live in this hall at once, it seemed a little strange. It was as if someone had locked them in here. Chapter 8:15. Lin Tian stood in front of the hall where the dead spirit snakes had rushed out. He frowned slightly as he looked inside. It was really strange that so many snakes were gathered here. It didn't make sense. Kid, why do you care so much? Let's go quickly. It's just a bunch of small snakes. Don't delay the important matter of finding the divine weapon. Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian looked at the hall again. In the end, he couldn't think of anything, so he continued to walk deeper into the hall. This hall had been here for God knows how many years. The air inside was very bad, and the yin chi was very thick. They didn't walk for long before a huge tremor occurred in front of them. A pitch-black fog of death appeared. In this fog of death, a pair of green, demonic eyes lit up. They were the size of bowls. The group stopped and looked over. Soon after, they saw a 30-feet-long wild python charging out from the black fog. This python didn't have any signs of life. It was full of a powerful aura of death. It opened its mouth and tried to swallow the group. Let me, Bai Chio said. Facing such a big snake, she wasn't afraid. She felt like taking revenge. She drew a lunar arrow. With a poof, The big snake's forehead was pierced through. It fell to the ground, twitched twice, and then stopped moving. Bai Qiu snorted softly and clapped her hands. She looked very relieved. She was scared by a group of small snakes just now. Lin Tian and the others walked over and looked at the big snake's body on the ground. It was turning into ashes inch by inch. After a pause, they didn't pay much attention to it and continued to walk deeper into the hall. As they walked in the hall, the air was very cold. However, they didn't encounter any Yin soldiers, Yin generals, or malicious ghosts. Instead, there were a shocking number of dead spirit Yin snakes. In just a few minutes, they encountered 7 big snakes, all of which were comparable to beings at the immortal realm. Boom! The aura of death was rolling. They encountered the 8th big snake. It was hissing its rotten tongue and pouncing toward them. Did we enter a snake's nest? Lin Tian frowned. He waved his hand, and the towering heaven sword light slashed out. It turned into a sword light wave that rolled out and crushed the 8th big snake. They continued to walk forward and spread out their divine senses. However, they didn't find anything. Not long after, a scream suddenly came from up ahead. An astonishing wave of divine power swept past. A fight broke out? Or was someone swallowed by some serpent evil spirit? Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian said casually, "It's possible, but it has nothing to do with us." This palace extended in all directions, and there were many paths. Most of them were constructed with strange metals, which more or less surprised Lin Tian and the others. After all, such a palace was really rare. Their group walked along a palace path. They opened one palace room after another and found some damaged ancient books. Other than that, they didn't gain much. Gradually, the palace in front of them began to break down, and an astonishing energy fluctuation came from deep inside. Screams rang out again, sounding somewhat flustered, as if they had encountered something terrifying. Lin Tianyi and the others walked along the palace path. Not long after, the palace in front of them broke open as if it had been destroyed by some kind of weapon. Some of the metal that made up the palace walls rolled over. There are Tao patterns. Bai Qiu pointed at a spot and said, as far as the eye could see, there were indeed traces of Tao patterns in the damaged parts of the palace, but they were almost completely wiped out. A Nirvana-level Tao pattern, and it looks like a Tao pattern of the demon race. Wuxing Crocodile said. Lin Tian looked at it. Could it be one of your relatives who carved it? Get lost, brat. Wuxing Crocodile scolded. Lin Tian couldn't help but laugh and continued to walk forward. The place where the palace was broken open was actually a large area of ancient forests and rocks in front of them. There were spirit energy fluctuations, which was very surprising. The group walked into this place, and the screams in front of them became clearer. Their steps were extremely fast. Soon after, a dense group of cultivators appeared before them, all of them extremely chaotic. There were large snakes in front of them one after another, but there were also countless ordinary small snakes that coiled together, surging about, attacking many cultivators like a wave of snakes. These snakes were all dead spirits. They didn't show any signs of life, but they were very terrifying. A group of tiny venomous snakes surged and drowned a cultivator at the peak of the Zephyr realm. In the blink of an eye, they devoured his flesh and blood, turning him into a skeleton. In other places, more than 10 large snakes roared. Each of them was dozens of feet long, and they were surrounded by a dense fog of death. Their ferocity was terrifying. Moreover, among them, there were even a few large snakes that had grown scales and horns. They were even more terrifying than ordinary great Tao experts. They swallowed a few ninth heaven of the immortal ascension realm cultivators in one gulp. They didn't even spit out their bones. We've entered a snake nest. Bai Qiu shrank his neck. The small snakes in front of them were densely packed. Each of them had cold eyes, which was a little terrifying. There are also extraordinary things, Wuxing Crocodile said and pointed forward. Although there were many ferocious snakes in front of them, there were many spiritual herbs on the ground. There were also precious metal fragments that could be used to forge low-grade Tao weapons. Many cultivators fought with the snakes while crazily fighting for them. In the process of fighting, some cultivators naturally had a cruel confrontation. Many people died tragically on the spot. Lin Tian and the other two walked forward, not paying attention to these cultivators. They stared ahead and circled around the group of cultivators, avoiding some ferocious snakes, and walked deeper. They felt that the treasures in the space of this hall would definitely be in the deeper areas. They didn't fight and quickly walked far away. Boom! The ground suddenly shook. In front of them, a three-headed snake rushed out. It was golden and covered in scales. The two horns on its head were very thick. When it opened its mouth, it spat out a large amount of poisonous fog, corroding the air. It immediately caused a few half-step great Tao experts to suffer. And this was not the end. Similar golden snakes rushed out from a few other directions. They were all very terrifying. Lin Tian and the others were blocked. A three-headed snake roared, and its eyes were filled with the color of death. It directly attacked the group of people. Lin Tian raised his hand and slashed out a ray of sword chi. Chi! The three-headed snake sprayed out a yin fog, which actually obliterated the sword chi that he slashed out. This caused him to be slightly surprised. It seemed that the three-headed snake before him was somewhat terrifying. It was far from being comparable to those ordinary snakes from before. Even as powerful as he was now, the sword aura he slashed out was easily obliterated. It could be said that in terms of pure combat strength, these three-headed snakes were all ferocious spirits that could kill early-stage great Tao experts. Boom! 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 In a few other directions, several three-headed snakes rushed out to attack the three powerful youths. They were the few people who had attacked forcefully outside. They were Mu Yuanliang, Dong Wenyin, and Lu Huasheng from the central region. They were all very powerful. Every time they attacked, the void would tremble and distort. The exuberant blood chi was not concealed in the slightest, causing many people's hearts to tremble. With a poof, a divine ape shadow appeared beside Mu Yuanliang. With a cold expression, it killed a three-headed snake. On the other side, divine light surged beside Dong Wenyin, crushing a three-headed snake. At the same time, Lu Huasheng shattered a three-headed snake. Black blood dyed the sky. So powerful. These three people are already very famous in the central region. Other than those young kings, no one can stop them. Terrifying, many people said. Dong. Not far away, golden divine light vibrated, vast and mighty in the sky. Lin Tian waved his fist. The golden fist shadow shattered the void and directly smashed the three-headed snake in front of him into pieces. Black snake blood splattered all over the ground. He shattered such a terrifying three-headed snake with just his physical body. What a terrifying physique. Many cultivators were shocked. Then, when they discovered that Lin Tian's cultivation was half a step into the great Tao realm, they were even more shocked. Such a physical body at half a step into the great Tao realm. Even the brute king physique is not that strong, right? These people's hearts trembled, all of them frightened by Lin Tian's physical body. Lin Tian shattered a three-headed snake. The group continued forward, heading deeper into this space. Every time I see Kid Lin's physical body, I can't help but be surprised. He's like a freak, Wuxing Crocodile said. Black lines appeared on Lin Tian's forehead, and he really wanted to beat it up? What damn pervert. Don't you know how to talk? Wuxing Crocodile curled its lips and rolled its eyes. At this moment, with a whoosh, a ray of light flashed past. It rushed out from the ground where a three-headed snake emerged. It was like a divine rainbow that streaked into the depths of the space. The aura it emitted was extremely sharp and terrifying. At a glance, it was a sword. The body of the sword was covered with patterns. The body of the sword looked as if it had been soaked in blood. It was shockingly red. That's a divine sword. That's the aura of a divine weapon. A divine weapon. Many cultivators exclaimed. Lin Tian and the others were naturally moved. Their expressions all changed. Kid, that's a divine sword at the low-grade divine weapon level. Catch it, Wuxing Crocodile shouted. It was both surprised and delighted. The Bi-siblings and Yang Qi were also shocked. Their eyes shone brightly. Lin Tian also noticed that the sword was a low-grade divine weapon. At this moment, he took a step forward and directly activated the weapon manipulation technique. He interfered with the divine sword from a distance and grabbed it to his side. His weapon manipulation technique was now stronger. With the support of his powerful cultivation base, he also stepped on the 5th level of the Yin and Yang Lun. In the blink of an eye, he was hundreds of feet away from the divine sword. When he was so close to the divine sword, he immediately felt an extremely terrifying murderous aura. The sword energy was so dense that it was as if it had killed tens of thousands of creatures, causing his skin to involuntarily tingle. He secretly gritted his teeth. His eyes flashed as he activated the weapon manipulation technique to the extreme. Golden divine light was vast and mighty, and he grabbed the divine sword's hilt. Boom! 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 3 beams of killing light shot toward Lin Tian with incredible speed, all of them exuding deadly fluctuations. They were all aimed at his forehead, heart, and throat. They were extremely vicious, and were all aimed at taking his life with a single blow. At the same time, in another direction, a shocking demonic aura surged. A figure was hidden in a hazy demonic mist. He slashed out a deathless beam of demonic light toward Lin Tian, cold and merciless. Obviously, these people were too far away to grab the divine sword. However, they didn't want Lin Tian to get it, so they all attacked Lin Tian at the same time. Chapter 816. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. The 4 waves of killing intent were somewhat terrifying. Even someone as strong as Lin Tian couldn't help but change his expression. He immediately retreated to dodge. With a loud bang, the 4 waves of killing intent rushed across, causing the space not far away to shatter, and space-time turbulence poured out. Whoosh! It was also at this moment that the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. The divine sword was no longer affected by Lin Tian's weapon control technique. With a flash of light, it flew into the distance like a rainbow, rushing into the depths in the blink of an eye and disappearing. Damn it, these damn bastards! The whooshing crocodile cursed. Seeing that Lin Tian was about to grab the divine sword in his hand, but someone forcefully interfered and caused the divine sword to fly away, it was furious. Even Bai Ziki and Yang Qi frowned, and strands of cold light intertwined in their eyes. Damn it, Bai Qiu said angrily. Many cultivators shook their heads and stared at Lin Tian in front of them, looking at each other. What a pity it was so close to being snatched by that person. Yeah, if those people didn't make a move, that person would have already gotten the divine sword. Some cultivators whispered. There were also some cultivators whose eyes lit up. If the divine sword wasn't taken away, then they had a chance to get it. For a time, many cultivators struggled to charge into the snake swarm, pushing deeper into the depths. Previously, there was a rumor that there might be a divine weapon-level treasure inside, which attracted many people to come here. Now, when these people saw a divine sword, they were naturally even more excited and exhilarated. Many people began to imagine themselves holding a divine sword and sweeping through all directions. Mu Yuanliang and the others stared in the direction where the divine sword flew. Their eyes shone brightly. At this moment, they no longer looked at Lin Tian. Their speed was extremely fast as they headed towards the depths. Clearly, they were going to fight for the divine sword. Clang! At this moment, a dense sword light slashed over. They were all very tyrannical, causing them to frown and stop in their tracks. Lin Tian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Holding a high-grade Dao sword, he stepped forward in the air and closed in on them. If these people had not tried to kill him, he would have already grasped the divine sword in his hand and would not have let it escape. This made him feel a chill in his heart. The gleam of the sword flickered, and it did not hide its murderous intent at all. His eyes were piercingly cold. This is a high-grade Dao weapon? He actually has a sword at this level? He is going to attack those people? Those people aren't simple at all. Many people were moved. At this time, even though there were thousands of fierce snakes in front of them, they couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Tian. At this moment, if they thought about it from another perspective, these people could understand Lin Tian's feelings and anger. However, these people knew that Mu Yuanliang and the others were extremely powerful, so when they saw Lin Tian forcing the four of them, they could not help but be shocked. Mu Yuanliang and the others were stopped. Their eyes were cold as they looked at Lin Tian. It's just a half-step great Tao. Don't seek your own death. Mu Yuanliang said coldly. Lin Tian shook the sword in his hand, and the Ling Tian sword scripture was pushed to the limit. He directly slashed out a 3-foot-long sword intent, which cut through the space. The destructive power made everyone's expression change drastically. Oh my God! What sword technique is this? How can it be so terrifying? He's only a half-step great Tao. How can he have such power? Many people spoke out. Mu Yuanliang was also moved. At this time, he made a serious move. Instantly, an ape shadow appeared beside him and faced the sword intent. With a boom, the two collided with each other, and a monstrous divine light erupted. Then, the sword gleam and the ape shadow collapsed at the same time. The divine light dispersed, and smoke and dust intertwined. Mu Yuanliang did not move, but a cold gleam flashed in his eyes. In the smoke and dust that filled the sky, a figure stepped forward. Another sword gleam flew, cutting through the smoke and dust, and once again pressed towards Mu Yuanliang. At the same time, it also enveloped Dong Wenyin, Lu Huasheng, and the great Dao realm demon venerable in the hazy, demonic fog. This sword gleam was astonishingly sharp and full of offensive power. It distorted a part of the void. He's attacking 4 great Dao masters at the same time alone. Moreover, all 4 of them are not ordinary. Most importantly, he's only a half-step great Dao master. Even if he's many times stronger than ordinary half-step great Dao cultivators, to be able to shake 4 of them at the same time seems to be. This is really. Many people were shocked. They only felt that Lin Tian was too powerful. He was only a half-step great Dao master, but he was brandishing a butcher's knife at 3 peak 3rd firmament great Dao masters and a 4th firmament great Dao demon venerable at the same time. It was too shocking. None of Dong Wenyin's group was weak. The weakest among them was at the peak of the 3rd firmament of the great Tao. Their vitality was as vigorous as a furnace. Although Lin Tian's towering heaven sword gleam was very powerful, it was not enough to make these people retreat in fear. You, a half-step great Dao master, want to shake all of us at the same time? Dong Wenyin said, crushing the towering heaven sword gleam that Lin Tian slashed out. Lu Huasheng, Mu Yuanliang, and the great Dao demon venerable also made their moves, shaking off the sword gleam that rushed to their sides. CK your grandfather, who said there's only one person. A chill was heard. Whooshing crocodile rushed over with a vast and shocking demonic aura. He directly made his move, displaying a super powerful divine ability. Boom! Clang! Thunder rumbled, and the saber gleam was frightening. Bai Ziki and Yang Qi stepped forward. Their eyes were cold, and their attacks were swift and fierce. Humph! Bai Chio stood at the back, gathering a bow with his divine power. He raised his hand and pulled the bow, for lunar arrows flew out like lightning. Whoosh! 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 The lunar arrows almost pierced through the space. In the blink of an eye, they were in front of the 4 great cultivators, like 4 arrows that could destroy all things. Boom! The space shook, rolling up a hurricane. Many cultivators in this place were blown away. Some of the fierce snakes were also affected, flying under such a violent aura. Bai Chio had the Lunar King physique. Bai Ziki had the Thunder King physique. Whooshing Crocodile had cultivated a second life, and Yang Qi was also a natural monstrous genius. The 3 people and the crocodile attacked at the same time, creating a terrifying power. It made Dong Wenyin and the others change their expressions. No one was careless, and they all used powerful divine abilities and secret techniques to face the three people and the crocodile. With a boom, the space shook violently as if it was going to collapse in the next moment. The scene was very frightening. Clang! The sound of the sword rose again. Lin Tian once again supported the towering heaven sword scripture. The sharp sword gleam seemed to penetrate the sky. His eyes were cold. With a high-grade Dao sword in his right hand, he slashed out the towering heaven sword scripture. The sword gleam fell like rain, while his left hand waved a golden iron fist, directly pressing down on Mu Yuanliang. Moreover, at the same time, he took out the fifth level of the yin and yang puppet, using extreme speed to break through Mu Yuanliang's defense range. He closed in on the other party, and his left fist directly smashed down. Dong! The terrifying punch was even more terrifying than his towering heaven sword gleam. Mu Yuanliang's expression changed. First, Lin Tian's speed was too fast, and second, the power of Lin Tian's punch was too terrifying. At this time, he didn't even have time to dodge. He could only roar and use a divine ability secret technique to create a 30-meter-long ape shadow. He waved his huge ape fist and blocked Lin Tian's punch. The two collided, and a crisp sound was heard. The 30-meter-long ape shadow was instantly smashed into pieces by the golden iron fist. Lin Tian's golden iron fist weakened a lot, but it still landed steadily on Mu Yuanliang's body. Bang! Mu Yuanliang was sent flying like a scarecrow. He coughed out a mouthful of blood while still in the air. Such a scene made the hearts of everyone in this place tremble. Everyone's expression changed. That Mu Yuanliang was actually sent flying? How is this possible? Even in the central region, Mu Yuanliang is a super powerful person. It's hard for a few young kings to find a match for him. He is respected among his peers. But now, he was actually beaten by a half-step Great Dao cultivator. Many people were shocked. Lin Tian, who was half-step Great Dao, actually sent Mu Yuanliang, who was at the third heaven of the Great Dao, flying with one punch. Not only these ordinary cultivators at this time, even Dong Wenyin and Liu Huasheng, who were dealing with the attacks of Bai Ziki and the others, were moved and revealed a shocked expression. The powerful Mu Yuanliang was actually sent flying with one punch. His skin is quite tough. He took that boy's punch head-on, and his body didn't explode. Wuxing Crocodile sneered at this time. Hearing its words, many people in this place were shocked again. They couldn't help but gasp and look at Lin Tian in unison. Listening to these words, it seemed that the physique of this person in front of them was even stronger than that of a third heaven of the Great Dao. Boom! In the distance, Mu Yuanliang stopped his flying figure and stabilized his body. His face turned cold as he stared coldly at Lin Tian. You will pay the price. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of this person's mouth. Wisps of dangerous fluctuations spread out like the rolling waves of the angry sea. In response, Lin Tian raised his hand and slashed with his sword. There were only 2 words, bitch. He showed no mercy and directly stepped forward, attacking with all his strength. Dong! It was another fist, one that was exceptionally powerful, crushing the space until streaks of cracks appeared. At the same time, he shook the towering heaven sword force again and even called out the yin-yang lotus sea. The black and white lotus petals floated in every corner of this space, enveloping the other 3 powerhouses. At that time, these people tried to kill him, causing him to be unable to catch the Sect God Sword. After that, they acted as if nothing had happened and walked into the depths. This attitude really made him feel disgusted. At this time, when he attacked, he naturally had cold, killing intent. I'll send all of you to hell, he said coldly. He didn't hold back much of his strength when he attacked these people, because these people in front of him were indeed very powerful. Not only were their cultivation levels much higher than his, but few people in the same realm could stop them. Clang! 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 The black and white lotus petals clanged like dense divine swords, attacking Mu Yuanliang and the other 3. Boys, give it your all and get rid of these bastards who are harming us without benefiting ourselves, Wuxing Crocodile said. With a boom, it supported a powerful demon clan divine ability. At the same time, it directly summoned a high-grade Dao weapon. Almost at the same time, Baiziki and Yangqi also brought up the phenomenon in their seas of consciousness. Densely packed thunderbolts and densely packed saber light swept through the space, seemingly wanting to destroy everything. "I'll do it too," Baichio said. As soon as she finished speaking, 9 full moons rushed up behind her. Each of them was incomparably holy as they pressed forward. All these years, she had been cultivating with her brother, Baiziki. Although Baiziki usually doted on her, he was never arrogant and was very strict in cultivation. Therefore, gradually, she also comprehended her own strange phenomenon in her sea of consciousness, the 9 moon pearls. Chapter 817. 9 full moons rose into the sky. Each of them was like a real moon, emitting sacred and vast waves of energy. Instantly, many cultivators in this place were moved. The sun rose into the sky, and there were 9 moons. This scene was really shocking. Many people were speechless. Buzz! The 9 full moons intertwined with a strange light, enveloping the 4 powerhouses at the same time. Moreover, at the same time, Lin Tian and the other 2 Sea of Consciousness phenomenon and Wuxing Crocodile's super divine ability also fell together. Together with several high-grade Dao weapons, they completely sealed the surrounding space, causing the 4 powerhouses' expressions to change. In an instant, the 4 powerhouses each made their move. 4 waves of Dao power rushed up, and the high-grade Dao weapons of the 4 sects appeared. "Do you really think you can fight us without entering the Great Dao realm?" Mu Yuanliang said coldly. "Even if I'm half-stepped to the Great Dao realm, I can still kill all of you." Lin Tian faced him head-on. With a boom, he activated the Sun Heart Sutra to the limit. The aura outside his body suddenly rose wildly, shaking the heavens. At the same time, Baiziki and the others did the same. They each activated their own ancient sutra, Heart Sutra, and their combat strength began to soar. "Don't show mercy. Kill these bastards," Wuxing Crocodile cursed. Clang! Lin Tian pressed forward and also brandished the High Heaven Sword Sutra. Together with the Yin-Yang Lotus Sea, they emitted a terrifying killing power. This was Ao Jin Tianzuan's swordsmanship. It could cut the sky. It could cut the earth. It could destroy everything. He supported this ultimate swordsmanship. Together with Baichio, Baiziki, Yangqi, and Wuxing Crocodile, he released the immortal killing light at the same time, trapping the 4 powerhouses in it. Sword light, lightning, saber chi, demonic energy, and the power of the moon. 5 kinds of power surged wildly. With a crack, the space began to distort inch by inch and crack continuously, as if the sky was about to collapse. They 4 half-stepped to the Great Dao realm and 1/9 heaven of the immortal connecting realm. How? How can they have such terrifying power? Monsters! Are they still human? The surrounding cultivators were all aghast. What these people didn't know was that Lin Tian, Baichio, and Baiziki all had monarch bodies. Although Yangqi didn't have a monarch body, and didn't have an innate advantage in terms of constitution and bloodline, his perception and natural talent made up for the difference, and he wasn't any weaker than a monarch body. As for the Wuxing Crocodile, he was a primeval beast and had recultivated half a step into the Great Dao level. Naturally, his battle prowess wouldn't be any weaker than a monarch body of the same level. Moreover, besides Yangqi, the other 3 people and 1 crocodile had refined divine items like life crystals, and their life force essence had more than doubled. Boom! The surrounding space distorted bit by bit, and every corner was sealed off. 5 different types of power crazily surged up. At this time, the combination of the 5 powers of the 4 people and 1 crocodile was very terrifying. Mu Yuanliang and the others felt a chill in their hearts at this moment. They held up their high-grade Dao weapons and used all their strength. All kinds of techniques and skills were displayed. Suddenly, heaven and earth shook violently. Chaotic waves of divine power spread out in circles, crushing pieces of the void. With a few bangs, 9 figures were sent flying at the same time. Mu Yuanliang and the other 3 coughed up blood, and Lin Tian and the others trembled violently. Although they were slightly better than the 4 experts, they weren't much better and were also injured. Damn, our cultivation is still too weak. Moreover, these bastards are really not simple. They are much stronger than ordinary cultivators of the same level. Whooshing Crocodile cursed. Lin Tian's eyes were intertwined with a sharp light, and his eyes were cold. It's no big deal. We still have our strongest Paragon skill that we haven't used, our Dao laws and our Paragon weapon. They are no match for us. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes lit up when it heard Lin Tian's words. At this time, it remembered that Lin Tian's divine map, by Ziki's divine roar temple of the King's region, and by Chio's starry moon of the King's region had not been used. The few of them had not used their Dao laws. Most importantly, they still had a quasi-divine weapon, which was the real killing weapon. Once it was used, with their current cultivation, these people in front of them would definitely not be able to resist it. Damn it, kill all of them. It sneered. Lin Tian and the others looked at each other and nodded. They pressed forward again, and their divine power and demonic light began to surge again. Mu Yuanliang and the other 3 powerhouses had cold gazes. None of them felt comfortable with Lin Tian and the others daring to attack them so aggressively. In the next moment, with a boom, the 4 powerhouses propped up their great Dao laws. You are at least 3 small steps away from us, including a natural chasm. How dare you act like this? Mu Yuanliang said coldly. If you don't enter the great Dao realm, no matter how talented you are, you will still die. With a boom, the great Dao laws intertwined, and a shocking demonic light circulated. The 4 powerhouses truly displayed the battle prowess of a great Dao powerhouse. In an instant, the space became even more chaotic. The ferocious spirit snakes that rushed out couldn't help but tremble. They were shocked by this aura, and their movements became slower. For people and 1 crocodile. Mu Yuanliang and the other 3 great Dao powerhouses all surged with divine power at this moment. Clang! At this moment, the depths of the hall shook violently. The sound of a sword was ear-piercing, and the killing sword light almost shattered the clouds. At the same time, a shocking aura of death rose from the depths, and a terrifying roar sounded. Many cultivators were shocked and turned their heads to look into the depths. It's that divine sword from before. Many people's eyes lit up. Dong Wenyin and the other 3 powerhouses also turned their heads to look into the depths. Then, they left Lin Tian and the others and leaped, rushing into the depths respectively. At this moment, their speed was very fast, much faster than before. Clearly, they were going to fight for the divine sword. Lin Tian's gaze turned cold. He directly stepped forward, and the towering sword light scattered, slashing across the sky to stop the 4 powerhouses. Clang! His sword light was peerlessly sharp. However, this time, it was unable to stop all 4 powerhouses. Only Mu Yuanliang was slightly slower because he was seriously injured by his punch earlier, and his path was cut off by Lin Tian's yin-yang lotus sea. Get lost! Mu Yuanliang said coldly. He activated the Great Ape Divine Technique and headed towards Lin Tiansha, wanting to enter the depths. Lin Tian stepped forward, and his golden iron fist smashed through the void. Only 1 person is left. It seems that you are still inferior to those 2 people and 1 demon. When Mu Yuanliang heard this, his eyes turned colder, and his killing intent grew stronger. You are courting death. No one liked to hear others say that they were weaker than others, and Mu Yuanliang was naturally the same. With a boom, he pushed the high-grade Dao weapon to the limit. The great Dao law also surged out, pressing towards Lin Tian like a raging sea. Lin Tianling snorted. The towering sword light swept across, and the yin-yang lotus sea trembled. The golden iron fist smashed the void and shook it. At the same time, he opened his mouth at this moment, and his expression was very cold. Let's attack together and finish him as quickly as possible. Boom! Clang! The moment his words fell, the sea of thunder pressed down, and the continuous mountain of knives descended. By Ziki and Yang, Qi simultaneously propped up the strange phenomenon in their sea of consciousness and pressed over. At the same time, each of them summoned their high-grade Dao weapons and attacked with all their might. Lord Crocodile loves to fight one-on-one. Whooshing Crocodile laughed wildly, with killing intent in his laughter. Our group will fight against one enemy. With a boom, it pushed the high-grade Dao weapon to the limit. The 5-colored wings behind it shook, and the Dao law of the 5 elements intertwined in it. It pressed down on Mu Yuan Liang with an unstoppable force. Bai Qiu snorted and pushed the divine fire furnace to the peak. For a moment, the divine fire filled the sky. Immediately after, she propped up the sea of consciousness phenomenon of the 9 moons pearl again. At this time, she also approached directly towards Mu Yuan Liang, who was in the middle. Suddenly, the space directly collapsed. All around, the cultivators were horrified. Their eyes widened, and after seeing this scene, they couldn't say a word. The scene was too shocking. Mu Yuan Liang suddenly showed a look of horror. Such a terrifying force pressed on him at the same time. At this moment, he seemed to have fallen into an endless hell. Even his divine power and Dao law were suppressed. It was difficult for him to use them, and he kept trembling. "Don't kill me. Let me go." He begged for mercy loudly. "Let me go." Whooshing Crocodile cursed. Lin Tian opened his mouth and only said one word, "Kill." With a boom, the 4 people and the crocodile pressed down together. The violent force instantly drowned Mu Yuan Liang, destroying his high-grade Dao weapon on the spot, shattering his physical body and shattering his soul. Only the remaining blood mist floated in this space. Killed that Mu Yuan Yang? This, although 4 people and 1 demon killed 1 person, none of them has reached the great Dao realm. Looking ahead, the cultivators were shocked. Even in the central region, only a few invincible young kings have ever done such a thing. In that case, if they continue to grow, could they be comparable to those young kings? Some older experts said that those young kings in the central region all have the qualifications to reach the chaos realm. These people also have that kind of potential. Many people were terrified. The chaos realm was the peak of the cultivation path in current records. Therefore, those who stepped into that realm were also called emperors. Emperors looked down on all living beings and ruled the world. They all have the qualifications to be called emperors. Someone said with a trembling voice. In the air, Mu Yuanliang's blood mist was still floating. It was a shocking sight. Even if he dies, it won't be enough to vent my anger. Damn it! Whooshing Crocodile cursed. When it thought about how the divine sword that should have been obtained had escaped because of Mu Yuan Liang and the others, it was furious. "All right, let's hurry up and leave. That divine sword is in the depths. Let's snatch it back," Lin Tian said. Immediately, the 4 people and 1 crocodile turned around and left. Their speed was astonishing as they rushed towards the depths. Bai Ziki said in a deep voice, "Just now, in the depths of the hall, other than the killing aura of the divine sword, there was also a beast-like sound. That roar is not simple." "I noticed it too," Bai Qiu whispered. The group of people rushed towards the depths of the hall, but it did not affect their communication. According to what the rogue crocodile said, there should be a very terrifying dead spirit in the depths. Lin Tian on Dao. Chapter 8:18. Hearing Lin Tian's words, Bai Ziki and the rest nodded. After thinking about it, they knew that Lin Tian's guess was very likely. Be careful in the future. Lin Tian Dao. The 4 people and the crocodile were very fast, moving like lightning. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed hundreds of meters. On the way to the depths of the palace, there were many corpses of dead Yin snakes on the ground. They were all clear that they were killed by Dong Wenyin and the rest. And as they moved forward, there were other fierce snakes rushing out from all around them, pouncing towards them. "Why are all the dead spirits here snakes? And there are so many of them?" Bai Qiu muttered. Lin Tian and the rest were also slightly surprised. There were too many poisonous snakes in this palace. Lin Tian shook his head inwardly, not thinking about it too much. With a sweep of the soaring heaven sword, he cut down all the snakes that rushed out. Their speed was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had crossed hundreds of meters. Clang! Roar! An ear-piercing sword chime and a terrifying roar came from ahead, shaking the space. Lin Tian and the rest were all shocked. The sword chime was very terrifying, and the beast-like roar was also very frightening. Faster! Lin Tiandao. The few of them increased their speed. After about 10 breaths, they finally arrived at the depths of the palace. As far as the eye could see, there was a large number of snakes intertwined together, surrounding a large rotting corpse in the center. The rotting corpse was about 3 meters tall. Its withered hair was green, and its claws were very long. Most importantly, its pupils were vertical lines, which were no different from the pupils of a snake. Around it, the dead spirit serpents seemed to be guarding it. Roar! The rotting corpse roared, and the aura of death overflowed into the sky. Its withered claws raised, shattering the void and grabbing towards the sky. In the sky, a divine sword circled, as if it had a spirit, automatically slashing down rays of sword light towards the rotting corpse. Whoosh! 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 Around the rotting corpse, numerous giant snakes rushed out, flicking their tongues and coiling towards the divine sword, as if they wanted to cover the sky. Another clang rang out as the divine sword vibrated slightly. Sharp sword light filled the sky and instantly shattered all the dead spirit snakes that had charged forward. Then, a thick and terrifying sword aura descended. It was as if it could destroy everything in the world. Lin Tian and the others were visibly moved when they saw this scene, and they revealed shocked expressions. This zombie is so scary. Why does it look like a dead spirit snake king? Its pupils were exactly the same as the eyes of a snake. Those huge snakes seemed to be protecting it, and Bai Qiu stared at the sky in shock. That godly sword is attacking the zombie on its own. It's as if someone is intentionally controlling it. This, not only her, but even Lin Tian, Bai Ziki, and the others were shocked. The divine sword attacking on its own was indeed very strange. Boom! In front of them, the terrifying aura of death and the divine sword light spread out, causing the void to crack and shatter. This kind of confrontation was a little scary. Even people as strong as Lin Tian and the others wanted to fight for the divine sword, but at this moment, they did not dare to step forward. A rotting corpse and an iron sword are actually clashing like this, as if they have a mind of their own. There is no justice in this world. Bai Qiu stared. Lin Tian stared ahead, thinking about how to seize the sword, but after a while, he frowned. He could not think of a good idea. The rotting corpse was too scary, and the killing sword aura emitted by the divine sword was just as terrifying. No one could get close, because at this moment, they would be attacked by both the rotting corpse's aura of death and the divine sword aura at the same time. That rotting corpse is much more terrifying than the evil corpse tomb master we encountered in the tomb and the Wuzhen spirit demon near the source vein. Wuxing Crocodile said, "Roar!" Clang! The rotting corpse roared, and the divine sword clanged. This space was enveloped by the aura of death and the divine sword's killing aura. Lin Tian and the others had no choice but to retreat for a moment. This kind of aura was really too terrifying, and it was already spreading in their direction. However, at this time, Lin Tian tilted his head and stared at 3 figures, 2 cold lights flashing in his eyes. Not far away, Dong Wenyin and the others had been here for a long time. They were very excited after seeing the divine sword, but they did not dare to step forward to fight for it because the battle between the rotting corpse and the divine sword was too terrifying, making them feel apprehensive. Lin Tian looked at the 3 people, coldness intertwining in his eyes. Bai Ziki and the others saw him tilting his head and followed his gaze, naturally seeing Dong Wenyin and the others. "We can't seize the divine sword now. Damn it, let's kill these people first." Wuxing Crocodile gritted his teeth and said. Lin Tian nodded. I think so too. At the same time, when we take the divine sword in the future, there will be fewer obstacles. With a clang, he shook the Ling Tian sword scripture, and an immortal sword radiance came down from the sky, slashing toward Dong Wenyin and the others. This sword radiance was more than 3 feet long, and it was very terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Dong Wenyin and the others. Dong Wenyin and the others were all experts, and their spiritual senses were much stronger than ordinary people. At the same time, they moved to the side and avoided the sword. Then they noticed Lin Tianyi and the others, and their cold eyes swept over. You're courting death again and again. You're really tired of living, Lu Huaxing said coldly. Beside him, Dong Wenyin's eyes were also cold, and the eyes of the demon Venerable, which was intertwined with demonic radiance, were also cold. Kill! Lin Tianji only had one word, and after saying that, he stepped forward directly. His glabella shone brightly, and he directly displayed the yin-yang lotus sea in his sea of consciousness. The intertwined black and white lotus petals rushed up majestically, sealing every inch of space in all directions, and attacked the 3 experts at the same time. You little bastards! How dare you interfere with us taking the sword? CK your grandpa! Wuxing Crocodile cursed. He opened his 5-colored wings and upper-grade Dao weapon and attacked with his strongest attack. Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, and Yang Qi opened their sea of consciousness, and at the same time, took out their Dao weapons and attacked the 3 experts. They were very strong, but they also knew that Lu Huaxing and the others were not weak. Naturally, they did not hold back. Almost from the beginning, they attacked with all their strength, shaking the space in this place inch by inch, and dazzling divine light flooded all directions. Lu Huaxing and the others shouted, and each of them took out their upper-grade Dao weapons and their powerful divine abilities. It could be said that these 3 experts were indeed stronger than Mu Yuan Liang, and the power they exuded at this moment was very terrifying. Boom! The divine abilities of the 2 sides collided, stirring up the place, and the space kept cracking. Boy, sacrificial god Bell, Wuxing Crocodile said fiercely. Of course, Lin Tian's eyes flashed with light. With a hong sound, at this moment, he directly propped up the quasi-divine weapon mountain-shaking bell. As soon as it appeared, a terrifying pressure spread out, directly suppressing the secret arts and demonic arts of Lu Huaxing and the other 2 experts. Quasi-divine weapon? You! Lu Huaxing and the others' expressions changed. Lin Tianling snorted, and at this moment, stepped forward alone. The mountain-shaking bell shook everything and directly suppressed Lu Huaxing. Activate together, he said. Bai Ziki and the others nodded. At this moment, the sea of consciousness turned into waves of tyrannical divine power, and at the same time, poured into Lin Tian's mountain-shaking bell. Suddenly, this quasi-divine weapon shone brightly, almost covering the vast sky. With a boom, among the 3 experts, Lu Huaxing was directly enveloped by the bell and rushed around in panic. Wong! On the mountain-shaking bell, the bird and beast patterns came to life under the crazy activation of Lin Tianyi and the others. As if they had turned into real existences, they turned into rays of light and rushed into the bell, drowning Lu Huaxing. Ah! Lu Huaxing screamed. Even though he was in the 3rd heaven of the great Tao, he couldn't resist this power and was directly crushed. Once he was crushed, he lost everything. With a boom, the mountain-shaking bell shook fiercely, and a destructive ripple spread out, wrapped in a peerless killing power. At the same time, with Lin Tian's sea of consciousness vision, this person's broken flesh and divine soul were wiped out on the spot. Dong Wenyin and the demon Venerable shrouded in the demonic fog both changed their expressions, revealing a shocked expression. They never thought that Lin Tian and the others would have a quasi-divine weapon. There are 2 more. Kill them together, Wuxing Crocodile said. Lin Tian tilted his head and directly pressed forward. The mountain-shaking bell shone brightly and pressed down on Dong Wenyin and the demon Venerable. Bai Ziki and the others didn't use any great techniques at this time. They were completely using their divine power to help Lin Tian activate the mountain-shaking bell, because at this time, the quasi-divine weapon-level mountain-shaking bell was enough to suppress Dong Wenyin and the demon Venerable. After all, their cultivation was much stronger than when they first got the mountain-shaking bell, and they could make this quasi-divine bell exert a more terrifying power. Now, they were fully activating this quasi-divine weapon and making it show its great power, which was enough to kill a 4th-tier Great Dao expert. Dong! The mountain-shaking bell roared, and its power was even stronger, covering heaven and earth. Dong Wenyin and the demon Venerable both retreated. Facing this big bell, they didn't dare to face it head-on. It was completely courting death. "You won't live," Lin Tianling said. He controlled the mountain-shaking bell, and at the same time attacked with the yin-yang lotus sea of consciousness vision to interfere with the movements of the two great experts. Clang! Suddenly, the ground in the depths of this palace shook violently, and there was another sword cry, which was very ear-piercing. With a crack, the ground not far away collapsed, and a big sword that was exactly the same as the divine sword in the sky rushed out, exuding the same impressive power. In the blink of an eye, it appeared beside the divine sword in the sky, like a pair of twin brothers. "This is another divine sword." Bai Qiu stared. Lin Tian was also shocked. For a moment, the attacks of the two great experts toward Dong Wenyin couldn't help but stop. Roar! In front, the rotting corpse roared, and the aura of death surged up. Its eyes turned crimson, and it breathed out Yin Qi. Its withered claws looked like they would shatter at any time, but they were terrifying. They covered the sky and grabbed at the two divine swords. This kind of attack was a little terrifying, and it was much more terrifying than the aura of the two divine swords. It made one's heart tremble. Lin Tian and the others stared at this scene and couldn't help but feel a sense of horror. They only felt that this rotting corpse was like a living nirvana expert. Clang, 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 clang. Chapter 819. The 9 divine swords floated and gathered together. In an instant, they exuded a wave that could destroy everything, causing Lin Tian and the others' expressions to change drastically. They only felt a chill in their bodies. They are all low-grade divine weapons, and they are exactly the same, Bai Qiu said in shock. 9 low-grade divine, weapon, level divine, swords were hidden in this palace. Now that they had appeared together, it could be said that it was truly terrifying. At this moment, Lin Tian couldn't help but stop his attack. His eyes fell on the 9 divine swords, and his eyes were full of shock. "Wait! Master Crocodile remembers," Wuxing Crocodile suddenly said. "It is said that 1,000 years ago, the Nirvana Realm, 9-Sword King, and the Golden Snake Overlord, who was also in the Nirvana Realm, had a peak battle in this heaven region. After that, both of them disappeared. These 9 low-grade divine swords seem to be the divine weapons of the 9-Sword King." "What?" Hearing Wuxing Crocodile's words, Lin Tian and the others looked over. Wuxing Crocodile stared at the 9 divine swords vibrating in the sky in front of him. His eyes flickered, and finally, he said in an extremely affirmative tone, "Yes, it is definitely the divine weapon of the 9-Sword King." As he said, he looked at the tall, rotten corpse surrounded by thousands of snakes and said, "This dead spirit should be the Golden Snake Overlord. The palace we are in now should be the protective divine weapon of the Golden Snake Overlord. It was left here after being slashed by the 9 divine swords." Hearing his words, Lin Tian and the others were moved again. "This palace buried under the ground is a divine weapon?" Bai Qiu stared. Such a statement seemed to be a bit too unbelievable. Lin Tian's eyes were intertwined with light. At this time, he nodded and agreed with Wuxing Crocodile's words. "It is very likely so," he said. "This palace is almost entirely forged with special metals. Moreover, many places have Nirvana Dao patterns. It is indeed like a divine weapon." Moreover, this also explained why there were so many snakes in this palace. This was because this was the divine weapon of the golden snake demon saint. So it was normal for there to be so many snakes inside. Moreover, we saw that this palace was damaged a lot before. At that time, we speculated that it was destroyed by some kind of weapon. Now that we think about it, it should have been destroyed by the nine-sword sovereign back then with the 9 godly sword. As soon as he finished speaking, the expressions of the others changed slightly. This speculation was indeed very consistent. Bai Qiu stared ahead. Is this really the case? We are now in a broken divine weapon. There's no doubt about it. That's definitely the case. Whooshing Crocodile stared at the 9 swords in the sky and said, Rumor has it that the 9-sword king was a bit crazy back then. He sacrificed half of his divine sense and half of his soul to these 9 swords, causing their power to multiply. Because of this, although the 9 divine weapons don't have weapon souls, they carry the divine soul of the deceased 9-sword king. At this time, after sensing the aura of the rotten corpse, who was once their mortal enemy, they all moved and began to attack on their own. They swore to kill him under the 9 swords. He sacrificed half of his divine sense and half of his soul to the 9 divine weapons. Lin Tian and the others were shocked. For a cultivator, the soul was extremely important, and so was the divine sense. The 9-sword king actually dared to do such a thing. He actually sacrificed half of his divine sense and half of his soul to his 9 weapons. So crazy. Bai Qiu was shocked. It is crazy, Whooshing Crocodile said. However, because of this, the 9 swords are terrifyingly powerful. Their combined power is even more powerful than a middle-grade divine weapon. As you can see, this palace seems to be a middle-grade divine weapon, but it was destroyed by the 9 low-grade divine swords. Only a few Dao patterns were left. Hearing its words, they couldn't help but look at the 9 divine swords. Indeed, these 9 divine swords were too terrifying. Whooshing Crocodile continued. Lord Crocodile guessed that after the battle between the 9-sword king and the golden snake overlord, their divine power and demonic power were exhausted. They happened to fall into this nirvana abyss and died tragically in the end. Later, after so many years, the golden snake overlord and its demonic snakes turned into undead evil creatures because of this abyss. Lin Tian and the others nodded silently. Everything here should be like this. Clang! In front, the 9 divine swords clanged. After combining, their power was terrifying, almost destroying this place completely. Lin Tian and the others couldn't help but retreat to avoid being affected by this unparalleled sword power. In the other direction, Dong Wenyin and the great Dao demon Venerable got rid of Lin Tian's mountain-shaking bell and retreated. Their eyes were full of brilliance as they stared straight at the 9 divine swords. This place actually had 9 complete divine weapons. Roar! The rotting corpse roared, shaking the space. The densely packed snakes were also crazily attacking the 9 divine swords. However, the 9 divine swords were too terrifying. They crushed everything with a slight vibration. How are we going to snatch the swords? Bai Qiu shrank his neck. At this time, the power of the 9 divine swords combined was too terrifying. The rotting corpse was also terrifying. In such a situation, anyone who rushed up in this place would be killed in an instant. Even if Lin Tian used the weapon control technique to summon the mountain-shaking bell, it was impossible to resist. Hearing this, even Bai Ziki couldn't help but frown. In the current situation, it was indeed very troublesome to snatch the swords. Damn it, those bastards from before. If the first divine sword was in Lin Tian's hands, we might be able to summon the other 8 swords according to that sword. But now, the 9 swords are combined, almost becoming a whole. It's really, Whooshing Crocodile said, looking like he wanted to kill someone. Lord Crocodile will F***CK, their grandpa. Lin Tian stared at the 9 divine swords in the sky. His eyes were intertwined with traces of brilliance. He said, let's ignore them for now. Later I will think of a way to get them. As he spoke, he turned his head again to look at Dong Wenyin and the great Tao demon venerable powerhouse. The murderous intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. Now, let's work together to get rid of these two people first. Hearing this, Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, Yang Qi, and Wuxing Crocodile all turned to look at Dong Wenyin and the demon venerable. Very good. Lord Crocodile is angry. Kill these two little bastards. Wuxing Crocodile cursed. As he spoke, the five-colored wings on his back shook, and a mighty surge of demonic power directly poured into the mountain-shaking bell above Lin Tian's head. Kill them directly. He faced Lin Tiandao. Lin Tian naturally thought so. He immediately urged the mountain-shaking bell with all his strength, pressing it toward the two powerhouses with great momentum. Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, and Yang Qi, the three powerhouses, each stood on one side, fully exerting their divine power to help Lin Tianyi urge the mountain-shaking bell. In an instant, the mountain-shaking bell shone brightly, like a volcano erupting. It suppressed all directions, shattering a large part of the void. You, Dong Wenyin, and the great Tao demon venerable were staring at the 9 divine swords in the sky, thinking about how to get them. At this moment, facing Lin Tian's mountain-shaking bell, their faces suddenly changed, and they quickly retreated. You can't retreat, Lin Tianling said. With a low roar, the mountain-shaking bell suddenly enlarged, enveloping all directions. Bang! Bang! With 2 crisp sounds, Dong Wenyin and the great Tao demon venerable were both blasted away, and half of their bodies were crushed. Lin Tian was merciless, not giving the two a chance to repair their bodies at all. He supported the mountain-shaking bell and pressed it down directly. Dong Wenyin and the demon venerable of the Great Path propped up their respective high-grade Great Path weapons and unleashed their great superpowers. However, it was useless. Under the combined power of the 5 great cultivators, they were too weak. Their respective Great Path weapons were instantly crushed into pieces. Die! Lin Tian operated the Heart Sutra of Sun to the peak, supported the mountain-shaking bell, and directly sucked Dong Wenyin into it. Suddenly, the mountain and river imprints on the bell shone brightly, turning into a murderous bell and rushing toward them. Ah! Dong Wenyin screamed, and this time, his body was directly crushed. Immediately, Lin Tian conjured the yin-yang lotus sea phenomenon, and together with the mountain-shaking bell, it directly crushed his spirit and body. He tilted his head and looked at the great Tao demon venerable. You're the only one left. His voice was cold, and as soon as he finished speaking, he pressed forward. Boom! Above his head, the mountain-shaking bell emitted an even more shocking power, and its light illuminated all directions. At this moment, Bai Qiu and the others knew that the demon venerable was at the 4th tier of the Great Tao. They all gave it their all, and their divine power and demonic power continuously surged into the mountain-shaking bell above Lin Tian's head, causing the light of the bell to more than double. It cut off all the escape routes of the other party and pressed down fiercely. This power was somewhat terrifying, and even the demon venerable, who was at the 4th tier of the Great Tao, found it difficult to resist. He was directly crushed into a bloody mist. Whoosh! In the bloody mist that filled the sky, a demonic light rushed out like a meteor into the distance, crossing hundreds of feet in an instant. This scene made Lin Tian's expression change slightly. This demonic light was the spirit of the great Tao demon venerable. At this moment, the other party had obviously burned a part of his spiritual power to forcibly exchange it for power, increasing his speed to a very terrifying level. He was much faster than when he used the 5th tier of the yin and yang locusts. At this time, it was too late for him to stop him. Clang! At this moment, an ear-piercing sound of weapons rang out, and an extremely blazing saber light rushed out from Yang Qi's body. Its speed was also terrifying, and it flew up as if it had teleported. In the blink of an eye, it caught up with the spirit of the great Tao demon venerable. The demon venerable was frightened and screamed, "No! Stop! Poof!" The saber light pressed down, terrifying and terrifying, and the spirit of the demon Venerable was directly shattered. Seeing this scene, Lin Tian was shocked. The Bai siblings and Whooshing Crocodile were also shocked. That saber strike just now was too amazing. He clearly doesn't have a monarch body, but he seems to be stronger than me. This is too much. This is really unreasonable. Bai Qiu stared. Half step to the great Dao realm, and you didn't use the Dao law just now, but you actually shattered the spirit of a great Dao powerhouse just like that. Young man with a saber, your method is a little scary. Whooshing Crocodile was also surprised, but then it thought of something and asked, speaking of which, Uncle Crocodile heard from Lin Tian that you also came from the lower heavens, but when I first saw you, you were only in the 9th tier of the immortal connection realm. How did you come to this heavens through the space-time portal of the 4th heaven? Uncle Crocodile remembers that to pass through that space-time portal, you need to at least have the cultivation of a half-step to the great Dao realm. Hearing this question, Lin Tian and the others also looked at Yang Qi at the same time. They had some doubts when they saw Yang Qi in the mountain before, but then they forgot about it because they came to the Nirvana abyss. Now that Whooshing Crocodile mentioned it, they were naturally curious again. Back then, before they stepped into the half-step to the great Dao realm, it was the Emperor-level Violet Fairy who personally opened the barrier of the great heaven realm and sent them to this heaven. How did Yang Qi come to this heaven without reaching the half-step to the great Dao realm? I found a forging Dao immortal root in a gorge in the 4th heaven. After refining it, I encountered a spatial storm. When I woke up, I was in this heaven. Chapter 820. Hearing Yang Qi's words, Lin Tian and the others were shocked. Forging Dao immortal root? Spatial storm? Whooshing Crocodile's eyes widened. Forging Dao immortal root. That thing is as precious as life crystals. You actually obtained and refined a forging Dao immortal root. Spatial storm. That thing is even more terrifying. Even Wuxian-level powerhouses would die if they were sucked into it. But you actually survived? How can you be so unreasonable? He stared at Yang Qi with a look of disbelief. Lin Tian was also surprised, but he couldn't help but slap this guy. What did he say at the end? Does he know how to speak properly? Does he think others deserve to die? Congratulations. He smiled at Yang Qi. A complete forging Dao immortal root was very valuable. He had read in an ancient book that it was a divine object on the same level as life crystals. He could imagine that after refining the forging Dao immortal root, Yang Qi's life essence should be much stronger than theirs. After all, Yang Qi refined a complete forging Dao immortal root. He also didn't expect that Yang Qi would be sucked into a spatial storm and come to the 5th heaven, which really shocked him. Clang! At this time, the terrifying sword humming sounded again. It was very ear-piercing, resounding in the sky. The 4 people and 1 crocodile were shocked. They all turned their heads and looked forward. Over there, 9 divine swords hung high in the sky. They were terrifyingly powerful as they slashed down thick rays of sword light towards the tall, rotten corpse. With a cracking sound, the void shattered wherever the sword light passed. It was impossible for the void to withstand such power. Back then, Sovereign Nine Swords sacrificed half of his divine sense and half of his soul to the 9 divine swords. Now that he sensed the aura of his great enemy, Demon Sage Golden Snake, the obsession of his soul was awakened, and he swore to kill him, causing the 9 divine swords to release their peak power on their own. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes flashed. To be honest, this is shocking. You have to know that this is only a magic weapon. Even if half of one's divine sense and half of one's divine soul were sacrificed, it is impossible to make the magic sword attack on its own and exert its peak power without an owner. It can only be said that the 9-Sword King's desire to kill the Golden Snake Demon Saint was too strong. Lin Tian and the others nodded. This was indeed the case. A weapon could attack on its own and display its peak power. This was a characteristic that only Primal Chaos Heavenly Treasures possessed. This was because Primal Chaos Heavenly Treasures possessed weapon spirits that possessed their own will. Clang! Sword cries clanged, and shook the surroundings. It was unknown how much space had been shattered, and the terrifying sword Chi traversed an area of over 300 m. The tall corpse roared. Its snake eyes were filled with a ruthless aura, and its mouth spat out a deathly mist. It was similarly terrifying to the extreme. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Around them, the dead spirit snakes gathered together. Even though they were dead and had turned into dead spirits, they seemed to know who their king was. They protected the giant zombie like a guardian spirit and crazily dashed toward the 9 godly swords. They were like moths flying into a flame. However, none of the dead spirit snakes retreated. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Lin Tian and the others looked over. There, the snakes were crushed, and black ashes kept falling to the ground. Boy Lin, what should we do? Whooshing Crocodile stared ahead. Yes, what should we do? Bai Qiu muttered and frowned. The battle in front of them was too frightening. The 9 divine swords automatically released the most powerful aura. That tall, rotten corpse was formed after the death of the golden snake demon saint. It was also frightening. It was impossible for them to rush up and seize the swords now. Lin Tian's eyes flashed as he said, "No hurry. Let me increase the pressure on the zombie first." Increase the pressure on the zombie? What do you mean? Bai Ziki and the others were puzzled. Lin Tian said, "The reason why the 9 godly swords can release such terrifying power on their own is that the divine soul of the king of 9 swords inside them wants to kill the zombie transformed from the golden snake demon saint. As long as the zombie dies, the divine soul of the king of 9 swords inside the 9 godly swords will dissipate in an instant. That will be the best time to snatch the swords." Hearing his words, Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, Whooshing Crocodile, and Yang Qi were all slightly moved. "You mean we should join forces and help the 9 godly swords kill the zombie first?" Whooshing Crocodile stared at him. "Yes." Lin Tian nodded. 5 Elements Crocodile shook his head and said, "Kid, don't be reckless. Your analysis is very reasonable. But look at that rotten corpse. It's frighteningly ferocious. Even if an ordinary Wuxian expert came, he would probably be slapped to death. Our strength doesn't pose any threat to it. Even if we have quasi-divine weapons, it won't have any effect on this thing. If we use quasi-divine weapons to attack it, it will only tickle it. And if we are targeted by it, it will instantly be miserable." Bai Ziki also nodded. The giant zombie in front of them was really terrifying. If they angered it and attacked them, none of them would be able to survive. "We don't need to attack directly." Lin Tian looked ahead and said, "Have you forgotten? I'm also a formation controller. I control the killing formation. I will carve several killing formations here and then use the mountain-shaking bell to control and kill the zombie from a distance." His eyes flashed and he said, "Of course, that won't kill it. However, it won't be a problem to interfere with it and disperse part of its power." At that time, the 9 godly swords should be able to kill it. Hearing his words, Whooshing Crocodile and Bai Ziki's expressions changed again. Their eyes were full of surprise. "Damn, Kidlin, you are so cunning. You can even think of this method. Lord Crocodile really admires you." Whooshing Crocodile's eyes lit up. Lin Tian immediately wanted to beat it up. What did he mean by cunning? Did he know how to use adjectives? "Hurry up, we will protect you. Quickly carve the formation," Whooshing Crocodile urged. Hearing Lin Tian's words, it was really pleasantly surprised. Lin Tian's method was really good. It should have a miraculous effect. Lin Tian nodded at this time, looking serious. With the mountain-shaking bell protecting his body, he surrounded the battlefield where the 9 godly swords and the tall zombie were fighting and began to carve the eternal killing formation. Faint silver light intertwined between his 5 fingers. He used the 5 dragon flash technique to carve the formation. Sparkling and translucent formation patterns jumped out quickly and then disappeared into the void. He was extremely cautious. After all, he was carving the formation around the 9 godly swords and the terrifying zombie. If he attracted the attention of both sides, he would be in trouble. Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, Whooshing Crocodile, and Yang Qi carefully guarded the side, all of them vigilantly looking around. At the same time, they were also watching the battle between the 9 godly swords and the tall zombie. If there were any strange movements, they would be ready to intervene at any time. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, an entire day had passed. Okay. At this time, Lin Tian stopped. His cultivation was now stronger than before, so it was naturally easier for him to carve the eternal killing formation. Even so, after spending a day, he only managed to carve the eternal killing formation in 4 corners. After all, he was carving the formation around the 9 godly swords and the tall zombie at the edge of the battlefield. Because he was very cautious, his speed was naturally affected. However, the eternal killing formation in 4 corners was more or less enough. After a day of fighting, the tall zombie's aura had weakened a lot. It was far from being as strong as it was at the beginning. Clang! Roar! In front of him, the 9 godly swords were still shining brightly. The tall zombie let out a violent roar and shook the 9 godly swords with his strength. The space around him kept collapsing and smoke rose into the sky. At this time, the ordinary snakes on the battlefield had all disappeared. They were all crushed by the aura of the godly swords. Only the tall zombie himself was left. Lin Tian finished carving the eternal killing formation in 4 corners and took a short rest to adjust his energy. Then he stared ahead and took out the mountain-shaking bell and merged it into the eternal killing formation. Begin, he whispered. He formed a formation seal. Suddenly, the eternal killing formation in 4 corners appeared. Boom! In just an instant, a vast killing intent enveloped the entire space. Dense eternal killing runes appeared in the void, completely sealing off the surrounding space. The terrifying killing intent seemed to want to devour and shatter everything. Edited by Lifer Fingerfox, and this was not the strongest. In the eternal killing formation, the mountain-shaking bell, which was at the level of a quasi-divine weapon, shook gently. Suddenly, the eternal killing formation in 4 corners became even more terrifying. There was an even more terrifying killing light that rushed up, as if it was going to pierce through the sky. Bai Chiu, Bai Ziki, and the others could not help but gasp when they saw this. As his cultivation increases, the killing formation he carves is getting more and more terrifying, Bai Ziki said in a low voice. At this time, the power of the eternal killing formation in 4 corners was released. The killing intent was really terrifying and made one's heart tremble. Lin Tian's eyes flashed. He controlled the eternal killing formation in 4 corners and the mountain-shaking bell with his mind. He activated the dense eternal killing formation, which directly slashed across and struck the tall, rotten corpse. Boom! In an instant, the densely packed eternal killing light landed on the rotting corpse, causing it to tremble violently. It actually tumbled backwards, and a wisp of pitch-black blood flew out from its body. Whooshing crocodile stared. It's hurt. In front, the tall, rotten corpse was injured. It roared angrily, and the vast death aura suddenly became more terrifying. A pair of ghostly eyes swept around, sinister and sinister. It was as if it had its own consciousness, trying to find out who hurt it. However, in the end, it did not find anything. Lin Tian and the others had already retreated far away. Only the killing formation and the bell ring were there. Boom! The eternal killing light was vast and dense. It was like a raging sea, crazily pressing toward the tall, rotten corpse. This scene was a little scary and horrifying. However, the tall, rotten corpse was even more terrifying. With a roar, it shattered more than half of the eternal killing light. The space was shaken to the point that it almost collapsed. It was very scary. This thing was very powerful when it was alive. After it died, it turned into an evil spirit. It's still very scary. Whooshing Crocodile said, "This is the characteristic of the strong." Lin Tian nodded. At this moment, he was very far away from the battlefield. He was controlling the killing formation and the quasi-divine weapon with his mind, cooperating with them to kill the rotten corpse. Clang! Chapter 8:21. The 9-sword forces were terrifying. Each of them was 100 feet long, like a comet dragging its tail as it pressed down. With a cracking sound, the void was directly crushed. Puff! This time, because the Eternal Four Corners killing formation was distracting the corpse, 5 of the 9 sword forces accurately hit the tall corpse. The corpse was immediately sent flying, and one of its arms was crushed into a bloody mist by the sword forces. Lin Tian and the others could not help but gasp. At this time, the sword radiance from the 9 divine swords was really terrifying. Boy, it's working. Keep going, Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian nodded. With a thought, the four-corner eternal killing formation once again boiled. The mountain-shaking bell placed in the middle of the four-corner killing formation also emitted a rumbling sound. Many frightening killing lights surged and submerged the rotten corpses under Lin Tian's control. These killing radiants were not as strong as the sword radiance from the divine swords. After all, the divine swords were now at their peak power. Even so, this was still a terrifying attack, enough to distract part of the corpse's energy and combat strength. Roars! The corpse roared and roared. Its one arm swept out and shattered the sword radiance in the sky. However, at this time, the 9 divine swords in the sky slashed down 9 terrifying sword forces as if they were going to cut everything into pieces. The 9 sword forces fell, causing the corpse to be heavily injured again. A huge bloody hole was pierced through its chest. Lin Tian saw the opportunity. The Eternal Four Corners killing formation burst out with monstrous killing intent again, condensing a sword radiance that was about 10 feet long. It landed on the corpse and sent it flying dozens of feet away. Roar! The corpse roared. Its only claw swept out and shook off a divine sword. Its claw swung out a large amount of death mist. This deathly mist swept in all directions in an extremely chaotic manner. However, it was extremely frightening, causing the Four Corners eternal killing formation that Lin Tian had imprinted to become much dimmer. The quasi-divine weapon-grade bell violently trembled and was almost sent flying. Lin Tian could not help but be shocked. The Golden Snake Demon Sage was really terrifying. After he died and turned into a dead spirit, he still had such terrifying combat strength. It was terrifying. Clang! 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 At this moment, the sword chime became particularly ear-piercing, and the void crackled. As far as the eye could see, the 9 divine swords floated up and down. Chains of light interweaved between them, connecting the 9 divine swords together. This caused the aura of the 9 divine swords to rise once again. The sword might surge like waves. Lin Tian and the others were shocked. This is... Back then, the 9-sword king sacrificed half of his divine sense and half of his soul to these 9 swords. It should have been for this step, allowing the 9 swords to produce a sword chain, allowing the 9 swords' sword power to fuse for a short period of time and erupt with a monstrous killing light. Whooshing Crocodile said. The moment it finished speaking, the 9 swords roared again. The clanging of the swords shook the earth and created a hurricane. This hurricane was like a destructive sword wind, and it pressed down on the tall corpse with great momentum. You guys activate the mountain-shaking bell. I'll guide the killing formation and deal the final blow, Lin Tian said. Bai Ziki and the others understood. They immediately released their divine power and demonic power and poured it into the mountain-shaking bell, causing the bell's power to increase greatly. Lin Tian channeled the Heavenly One Soul technique, causing all the eternal killing marks to light up. They turned into a huge sword that was 15 meters long. Then, they merged with the power of the quasi-divine weapon from the mountain-shaking bell. With a swoosh, they slashed towards the huge corpse. Clang! This was the sword of absolute extermination, formed by burning the Four Corners eternal killing formation directly and then merging it with the mountain-shaking bell's full power. Its power was stronger than ever before. First, the hurricane created by the 9 divine swords appeared in front of the corpse. With a poof, the tall corpse was injured by the killing sword despite its attack. It flew out with a bang. At this moment, the hurricane created by the 9 divine swords happened to arrive and directly enveloped the tall corpse. In an instant, the tall corpse's screams were heard. It was very ear-piercing. Lin Tian retrieved the mountain-shaking bell. From his perspective, he saw that in the terrifying hurricane, the tall corpse was crushed inch by inch, and black blood splattered everywhere. Poof! 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 In the sword wind, the corpse's only arm, left leg, right leg, and chest were crushed one by one. In the end, its head was also crushed. When the hurricane disappeared, only a pile of black ashes and a pool of thick black blood were left on the ground. Is it dead? Bai Qiu asked softly. It died a long time ago. It should be said that this time, it died again after dying. Wuxing Crocodile said. As far as the eye could see, the corpse had completely disappeared. Even its aura could not be felt anymore. Only ashes and thick blood were left. In the sky, the 9 divine swords hummed. The sword light on the surface of the swords intertwined and gradually dimmed. Then, the connected chains of light also disappeared. The terrifying sword power from before retreated like the tide, disappearing in the blink of an eye. In an instant, the 9 divine swords were like children who had lost their way. They trembled slightly, but did not do anything else. Get the swords, Lin Tian said in a deep voice. For a moment, the eyes of the other 3 people and the crocodile lit up. The group stepped out at the same time and closed in on the 9 divine swords. Lin Tian was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he had grabbed a divine sword in his hand. The divine sword vibrated and emitted a sword hum. It seemed to be resisting, but the resistance was obviously very weak. It was exactly as he had expected. After killing the tall, rotten corpse, the spirit and obsession of the 9 swords king in the 9 divine swords disappeared. It was no longer as terrifying as before. He suppressed this divine sword and then reached out to grab the other divine swords. Almost at the same time, Bai Ziki and Yang Qi each grabbed a divine sword. Their eyes were intertwined with a sharp light. Come to Lord Crocodile's claws. Wuxing Crocodile howled. Mine! Bai Qiu held up the great moon palm. After the corpse of the golden snake demon saint was killed, the sword power of the divine swords became very weak. Although the sword light and sword humming spread, it was no threat to the group at this moment. In the end, all 9 divine swords were taken by the group. Lin Tian took 3, Yang Qi and Bai Ziki each took 2, and Bai Qiu and Wuxing Crocodile each took 1. Divine weapons. Wuxing Crocodile clicked his tongue. He erased the spiritual imprint of the 9 swords king on it, and then branded his own imprint on it. What a steal! Bai Qiu's big eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. He also branded his divine sense on it, and re-refined it. Lin Tian and the other 2 naturally erased the original imprint on the divine swords and branded their own imprints on them. Lin Tian held a divine sword. The sword body was covered with patterns. The sword body looked as if it was stained with blood. It looked a little shocking. He held the divine sword and ran the high heaven sword scripture. Suddenly, a loud sword humming sound resounded in all directions. Although it was not as terrifying as the divine sword's power just now, it was still very strong. It was far from what the mountain-shaking bell could compare to. Great! A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. It was worthy of being a real divine weapon. A casual vibration was much stronger than the mountain-shaking bell that he activated with all his strength. He held the sword in his right hand and stroked the sword body with his left hand. Then he put it away. Wuxing Crocodile laughed on the side. Entering this place and taking the divine weapons of the 9 sects in one go was a great gain. At this moment, behind them, there was a sound of breaking through the air. Some cultivators were rushing over here. Lin Tian glanced and said to Bai Ziki and the others, "Let's go." They had already taken the divine swords. At this time, there was no need to stay in this place. Immediately, the group stepped out from another direction and quickly left this place. Not long after, they reappeared in the palace that they had come from and walked out along a palace path. Speaking of which, this palace is also a divine weapon. Can we put it away? Bai Qiu asked. We can't, Lin Tiandao said. Just now, I used the weapon control technique in divine sense to check it. The Tao patterns inside have all been obliterated. Now, it is only a dilapidated palace. It can't even be compared to an ordinary celestial artifact. Bratlin is right. There is no hope. It has been destroyed long ago. Whooshing Crocodile said. Bai Qiu pursed his lips and muttered, "What a pity!" At this time, the group walked out of this palace at a steady pace and reappeared in the space outside. We can still stay in this abyss for about 4 days. We have to hurry and see if we can dig out a few complete source veins and break through to the Great Tao realm in one go. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes lit up. Lin Tiandao glanced at it, but didn't say anything. He directly left the palace and headed to other places in the abyss. This abyss was extremely large, mountain ranges everywhere, all of them extremely majestic, astonishing large trees growing one after another. The 4 people and 1 crocodile walked in this abyss, entering and exiting mountain after mountain. However, they didn't find anything particularly precious. They only found some ordinary treasured medicines and Lingjing. The immortal Lingjing, on the other hand, found a few dozen kilograms. Soon, several days passed. On this day, the group had been in the Nirvana abyss for a full 6 days. It was also at this time that the densely packed cultivators in the abyss rose into the air and began to head up the abyss. Up until now, there was still one last day before the mist of death within the abyss of Nirvana would flood out once more. At that time, if one was still within it, then one would definitely die, and even ordinary rebirth realm experts would be unable to resist it. "Let's go, let's leave," Lin Tiandao said. At this time, it was time to leave. Whooshing Crocodile stared at him and said, "There's still 1 day left. What's the rush? Let's search for another half a day. Who knows, we might be able to dig out a complete divine vein or even a divine herb in this half a day." "Divine herb my ass." Lin Tiandao wanted to slap it. "We've already gained a lot in these 6 days. Don't be too greedy. What else are we looking for? If we encounter some special terrain and get trapped, we won't even be able to cry." "That's right. We should stop when it's time. Don't take everything away and leave some treasures for the future generations." Bai Qiu nodded. Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but roll its eyes. "Little girl, you were the one who called us the most. Didn't you say you wanted to dig out all the treasures in this desolate area?" Bai Qiu snorted and ignored it. In the end, the group didn't stay any longer. They all rose into the air and quickly left the Nirvana abyss. Standing at the edge of the abyss, they glanced down one last time before leaving. Not long after, they were very far away from the Nirvana abyss. It's about time to go to the central region. That region is the most important place in this heaven. Chapter 8:22. The 5th heaven is divided into 2 large areas, the barren region and the central region. The barren region is vast and boundless, and the central region is even more vast. There are many immortal mansions and spiritual lands, and many powerhouses gather there. It can be said that the true powerhouses of the 5th heaven live in the central region, and the space-time portal from the 5th heaven to the 6th heaven is also located in the central region. Let's go to the central region now. I still want to dig a few more great tombs in the barren region. Bai Qiu said, "There are more great tombs and spiritual lands in the central region, and the scale is much larger than the barren region." As the 5 elements alligator spoke, a rare light appeared in his eyes. Moreover, it is said that there is a huge immortal estate world in that area. It contains the orthodoxy of at least 2 Empyreans. Countless people want to find it. Hearing what it said, Bai Qiu's eyes widened, and even Lin Tian was surprised. There are 9 heavenly lords in the 10 heavens, and each of them is invincible. They can suppress the 8 barren regions with a single hand. In the undiscovered immortal mansion world in the central region, there are at least 2 heavenly lords' orthodoxies. How amazing is this? It will really make countless cultivators go crazy. Let's dig it out. Bai Qiu gestured with his fist. The orthodoxy of an heavenly lord is undoubtedly the most supreme immortal treasure in today's cultivation world. Master Crocodile has long wanted to dig it out, but unfortunately, that a mortal mansion world isn't easy to find. No one has ever found it. Even a half-step chaotic realm powerhouse came down to search for it, but unfortunately, there was no result. Whooshing Crocodile rolled his eyes. It's natural that such an immortal mansion world isn't easy to find. Maybe we have to wait for it to manifest itself. Lin Tian said. Bai Qiu gestured with his fist and said, in short, let's go to the central region. The group didn't have any objections. The central region has the most battle value. Going to the central region is naturally a very good choice. In the next moment, the group walked towards the central region. They are now at the edge of the barren region, still far from the central region, but the group wasn't in a hurry. After all, there is nothing to do in a hurry. Speaking of which, I don't know what that region is like. I heard that the strongest powerhouses of the younger generation are there. Lin Tian stared at the central region. Right? Back then, I heard some cultivators mention something about a young king. It sounds like he is very powerful. Bai Qiu nodded and glanced at Whooshing Crocodile. Little Crocodile, do you know who those young kings are? What are their backgrounds? Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but roll his eyes. Grandpa Crocodile hasn't been to the central region of this heavenly region for many years. Where would I find any young kings? Let them all go to hell. Bai Qiu curled his lips and didn't say anything. I know little about this, said Yang Qi. Hearing this, Lin Tian and the others looked at him. Yang Qi naturally knew that the three of them and the crocodile were waiting for him to continue. Without hesitation, he said, I've never been to the central region. I've just heard about it. Currently, there are 7 young kings in the central region. They are Qi Lianjun, Lungxing Luo, Gu Wuji, Zuidaoyu, Duan Ziyuan, and Lan Jing, and Yang Qi looked at Lin Tian, and Bai Ziki and said, Li Guhuang. Yang Qi and Lin Tian were old friends, so he naturally knew about the enmity between Li Guhuang and Lin Tian. Lin Tian and Bai Ziki's expressions changed. At the same time, a cold light shot out from their eyes. It's him. Lin Tian Lung smiled. Seeing this, Whooshing Crocodile was curious. Who is Li Guhuang? Boy Lin? Is he your enemy? Sun Body, mortal enemy. Lin Tian Lung. Li Guhuang, Sun Body, was the undisputed number 1 of the younger generation in the second heaven. No one in the same generation could stop him. Many of the older generation were not his match. Back then, Lin Tian defeated Li Guhuang, but he was also very clear that at that time, he had borrowed some external strength. If not for that, it was hard to say if he could have defeated Li Guhuang. Whooshing Crocodile stared. Sun Body. Among the 12 monarch bodies, the Sun Body was undoubtedly the strongest. Its origin was like the divine sun, enough to burn all things in the world. Yang Qi looked at Lin Tian and said, he is now in the great Tao realm. According to rumors, he is in the 5th heaven of the great Tao. Who cares what level his great Tao is? If we meet again, I will definitely kill him, Lin Tian Lung said. A few years ago, not being able to kill Li Guhuang and the Bai family was one of his regrets. Yang Qi nodded and said, Li Guhuang has the Sun Body. In the central region, he is called the Sun King. Qi Lianjun controls the great Tao of smelting and is called King Qi Lian. Lungxing Luo's formation control technique is amazing and is called the Formation Control King. Gu Wuji controls the great Tao of withering and is called the King of Withering. Supplemental Path, Ghost controls the great Tao of darkness and is called the King of Darkness. Duan Ziyuan has endless spells and cultivated at least 1,000 divine abilities and secret arts. He is called the Divine Ability King. And Lan Jing, when these 3 words were said, even someone like Yang Qi couldn't help but become serious. He said, this person is called the King of Primal Chaos and has the King of Primal Chaos body. Hearing this, the 3 people and 1 crocodile were all moved. Primal Chaos body, Whooshing Crocodile stared. Another Primal Chaos body appeared in the 10 Directions celestial domain. When it heard the words chaotic body, even an old monster like it could not help but feel shocked. Bai Ziki imperceptibly glanced at Lin Tianyi and said, in the history of cultivation, before the reincarnation body appeared, the primal chaos body was worthy of being called the strongest. It suppressed all the other monarch bodies except for the reincarnation body. Once it appears, it will definitely reach the peak. I know. Lin Tian nodded. The primal chaos body fused with the chaos, peerless and domineering. With such a monarch body, as long as it grows normally, it will definitely enter the primal chaos realm and become an emperor. Yang Qi said, "It is said that the 7 young kings of the central region are all at the 5th heavenly layer of the great Tao, and their combat power is extraordinary. Among the 7 young kings, it is difficult to determine the strength of the other 6. Only Enlanjing is recognized as the strongest of the 7. It is said that he came from the 7th heaven and has already killed a powerhouse at the enlightenment realm with his own strength. His current strength is even stronger than the 9 celestials of the same era. He is said to be the most promising person to break the barrier of the 10th heaven and achieve eternal life." Hearing this, the group was shocked again. Killing a powerhouse at the enlightenment realm with his own strength is even stronger than the 9 celestials of the same era. This is really a bit terrifying. Yang Qi continued. According to the rumors, Enlanjing is already invincible among his peers in the 7th heaven. He has many followers and 9 generals by his side. All of them are geniuses, and the weakest of them is at the 5th heavenly layer of the great Tao. This time, Enlanjing came to the 5th heaven for the immortal mansion world in the central region. Lin Tianwei muttered to himself, "It's that immortal mansion world again. Let's go to the central region and find that immortal mansion before anyone else, and dig out all the treasures inside." Bai Qiu clenched his fists and said. Lin Tian was speechless. That immortal mansion world hasn't appeared for so many years, and no one has ever found it. How can it be so easy to find? Wuxing Crocodile also couldn't help but roll its eyes, then sighed again and again. This generation's 5th heaven is really lively. The extreme Yin body, the Thunder God body, the extreme Yang body, and now even the Chaos body has appeared. It's really... King physiques are rare, but now, in the 5th heaven, there are 4 king physiques. How can it not be surprised? Okay, stop sighing, let's go. Lin Tian said. He looked at the central region. That place is really extraordinary. It is indeed worthy of being the center of this heaven. Li Guhuang. His eyes flashed with a cold light. This person must be killed. At the same time, he couldn't help but think of another great enemy, the desolate monster physique Putsong. The other party also left the 2nd heaven and went to a higher heaven. After that, he felt a sense of pressure. Thinking about it, his current cultivation base is still too low. He took a deep breath, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. To become stronger, he needs to become stronger faster. The location of the central region is naturally not a secret. The group of people knew it very well. They went straight to the central region. Of course, they didn't rush forward without stopping. While rushing to the central region, they also searched for traces of enlightenment left by their predecessors. In the process, they found several traces of enlightenment left behind by their predecessors, which were very useful to them. Each of them made great progress in their comprehension of the Tao, and their strength increased by a lot. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. 3 months had passed, and Bai Qiu was about to step into the half-step Great Tao realm. As for Lin Tian, Bai Ziki, and Yang Qi, they were about to reach the end of the half-step Great Tao realm. They were only a small step away from stepping into the Great Tao realm, and their battle prowess had increased greatly. It was also on this day that the mountain range on the horizon suddenly became more majestic. Each of them was like a true dragon. "We've arrived at the central region," Wuxing Crocodile said. After 3 months, the group of people searched for traces of enlightenment left behind by their predecessors as they walked towards the central region. At this moment, they finally walked out of the desolate region and appeared in the central region of this heaven. This is the central region. It is indeed different. Lin Tian muttered to himself. At this moment, as soon as he stepped into the central region, he felt very rich spiritual qi fluctuations. It was much stronger than in the desolate region. The landscape was very extraordinary, and there was a phenomenon of thousands of dragons returning to their roots. "Let's go." Let's find a place to rest first. Then we will set out together and go all out to excavate the origin veins. Whooshing Crocodile said. It led Lin Tian and the others forward. Not long after, a huge city appeared in front of them. It occupied an unknown amount of land, and the old trees around it were all extraordinary. There are cities in this heaven? Lin Tian was surprised. Of course there are. Whooshing Crocodile said. This heaven is densely populated with cultivators, and most of them are fighting and killing. In the long run, it will inevitably become very boring. Therefore, some of the major forces in the upper heavens came to this heaven and worked together to build an ancient city like this. There are treasure trading pavilions and immortal taverns inside to allow the many cultivators in this heaven to trade treasures and rest outside of cultivation. Of course, they also use this to earn cultivation resources like Ling Jing for their respective sections. Chapter 8:23. Listening to Whooshing Crocodile's words, Lin Tian and the other three were a little surprised. However, after thinking about it, such a city in the fifth heaven is really a good choice. After all, this heaven is filled with wars and killings. Sometimes one would encounter fatal disasters on the road. In the long run, it's really tiring. In addition to the continuous battles and killings, having such a peaceful place to rest and relax, quietly drinking a few pots of spirits, enjoying the dance of beautiful women, and not worrying about being suddenly attacked in the city, for many cultivators, this can be called the holy land of this heaven. The great forces of the upper heavens really have a lot of ideas. Bai Qiu muttered. It seems that the cost of living in this city must be very high. The five elements crocodile nodded and gave a rare compliment. Little girl, you're quite smart. That's right. In this city, everything is paid with spirit crystals, and the price is ridiculously high. For example, the most common spirit wine in the sixth heaven is the kind of fire wine that can be found everywhere in the cultivation world. In this city, a pot of Lingjing costs half a kilogram. Hearing this, Lin Tian and the others were moved. Even Yang Qi was no exception. It should be known that the fire wine was the most common wine in the cultivation world. Based on the price of one caddy of spirit crystals, it was enough to buy several hundred jugs of this strong wine. However, in this city, one could only buy one jug. It was truly ridiculously expensive. I knew it would be like this. Bai Qiu rolled her eyes. It's simply a robbery. You can think so, but not completely. After all, there are many Lingjing in this heaven, and many cultivators can find it. The most important thing is that this city allows many cultivators to live in peace and enjoy real peace. Therefore, it's normal that the price of the things here is extremely high. Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian Wei nodded slightly. She had to admit that Whooshing Crocodile's words are very reasonable. Let's go, it's rare to have such a city here. Let's go in and take a look, he said. The group of people arrived before this city, observing it from a close distance. They felt that this city was a bit astonishing, extremely large. They didn't stop for long and quickly entered the city. Within the city, there weren't many cultivators coming and going on the streets. Most of them stayed in the various restaurants and celestial lands. There were many beautiful fairies there, sweet nectar that refreshed one's heart and mind, and elegant and moving zither music. It was the most popular place for cultivators. Whooshing Crocodile said, the celestial land of immortals is the main restaurant in this city. There are many of them, but the one in the center is the most famous. Of course, the price is also much more expensive than the other restaurants. However, it's not a big deal. We don't lack Lingjing anyway. Let's go there. Lord Crocodile has been to that winery several times. The environment is very good. How many times have you been there? Bai Qiu glared. Why would a lone crocodile like you go to the wine tower? Besides, would the person in charge of the jockey let a crocodile in? F***. Don't call me crocodile. And don't add the word lonely in front of it. Then, can I transform into a human and go in? Whooshing Crocodile was furious. Bai Qiu opened his mouth. You seem to have a point. Whooshing Crocodile was even angrier. You, F***. Okay, stop it. Lin Tian was speechless. This man and demon were always bickering. As the most famous winery in this city, the decoration of the heavenly melody immortal land is very luxurious. Of course, not many people can enter it. It's not a matter of identity, but the price inside is very high. When entering the winery, one needs to pay 5 kilograms of ling jing per person, and the consumption inside is even more astonishing. Ordinary cultivators really can't afford it. Of course, for Lin Tianyi and the others, this is nothing. Lin Tian's stone ring has an astonishing amount of ling jing. Previously, when he visited the major clans in the fourth heaven with the purple elves, he took away nearly 10 million kilograms of ling jing. After coming to this heaven, he collected a lot of ling jing. In terms of ling jing reserves alone, Lin Tianyi has more than some of the super forces in the sixth heaven. There were many beautiful maids outside the immortal land. Seeing Lin Tian and the others, two of them immediately stepped forward and bowed to the group with a respectful, sweet smile on their faces. Lin Tian nodded secretly. Not to mention the other aspects of the heavenly melody immortal land, this attitude alone is very good. He raised his hand, and 20 kilograms of ling jing appeared in his hand, and handed it to one of them. Immediately, one of them led the group into the immortal land. After entering the immortal land, Lin Tian couldn't help but be surprised. The immortal land is very spacious, and the decoration inside is either strange flowers or precious jade. Even the corridor is made of precious bloodwood. It's really a bit too luxurious. A beautiful maid led Lin Tianyi and the others to a place near the window on the second floor of the immortal land and asked someone to bring them cool tea. The Wuxing crocodile was obviously very familiar with this place. It directly ordered the maid to bring out 20 bottles of immortal melody wine, 5 plates of essence fruit, 5 plates of frigid ice lizard meat, 5 plates of spirit phoenix lawn bones, and so on. In short, it was very skilled. It ordered a lot of things in one breath, which confused Lin Tian and the others. They didn't know what these things were. In the end, the Wuxing crocodile stopped and ordered the maid to quickly prepare. The maid was strange and surprised. She looked deeply at Lin Tianyi and the others, then bowed and left to prepare. "Why is that girl looking at you and looking at us so strangely?" Bai Qiu asked the Wuxing crocodile. "It seems that she's not surprised because a crocodile can talk. It's because of what it ordered," Bai Ziki said. Lin Tian and Yang Qi both looked at the Wuxing crocodile and guessed the same thing. "Of course," the Wuxing crocodile said with a proud expression. "First of all, the immortal melody wine is the signature of the heavenly melody, celestial land of immortals. It tastes very good. After drinking it, the wine's fragrance is endless, and the wine's strength is amazing. Cultivators of the Great Path can get drunk after drinking half a bottle. Essence fruit, condensed from some strange stones. It has rich spiritual energy and can nourish blood energy. Frigid ice lizard, born in an ice and snow environment and baked in a fire. It's meaty and melts in the mouth. The spirit phoenix lawn bones are also the signature of this place. The spine of a strange bird like the spirit phoenix lawn is fried with essence oil and then dried with spiritual energy. The taste is endless. It ordered many things, continuously introducing them to Lin Tian and the others one by one. Its saliva flying all over the table. Every single item had an extremely great background, all of them extraordinary. Lin Tian's eyes widened as he listened, a very bad feeling rising within him. "Just tell me, how much ling jing do you need?" he said and took a sip of herbal tea. The 5 elements crocodile laughed. "Not much about. Let Grandpa Crocodile calculate. About 500,000 caddies." Lin Tian directly spat out the tea in his mouth, and almost couldn't help but slap it. 500,000 caddies of ling jing was almost the storage of a big clan like the Ant clan in the fourth heaven, and this guy ate it all in one meal. Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, and Yang Qi. No wonder the waitress looked at them with a strange expression. So that was the reason. Crocodiles live in this world. Humans live in this world. We need to enjoy ourselves. The Wuxing crocodile said, "Enjoy your grandpa." Lin Tian wanted to kick it. Not long after, the waitress brought over the precious wine and dishes. The fragrance immediately rose up and gathered in a certain area, causing one's appetite to increase. Smelling the fragrance of the precious wine, even someone like Lin Tian, who didn't like to drink wine, had a feeling of wanting to drink. For a moment, everyone was moved. How is it? Now you know Lord Crocodile's vision. Wuxing Crocodile said proudly. 500,000 caddies of Ling Jing was very expensive, but since it had already been ordered, Lin Tian naturally would not feel heartache. After paying the Ling Jing, the group of people began to move. For a moment, the precious meat was crispy and the immortal wine was fragrant. It really made the group feel comfortable all over. I want a drink. Bai Qiu said. No. Lin Tian and Bai Ziki said at the same time. Both of them knew that she couldn't hold her liquor well and would get drunk with just a little bit of it. They kept the immortal brew pot far away from her. Bai Qiu puffed up his cheeks in a huff. In the end, while Lin Tian and Bai Ziki weren't paying attention, he snatched 2 bottles and gulped them down. Wuxing Crocodile couldn't help but laugh. Good, a heroin? In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Little Tianzi, little, croc, little white, little chi, let's Bai Qiu was tongue-tied. Wuxing Crocodile widened its eyes. Lin Tian was sweating profusely, and Bai Ziki was even more speechless. What did he mean by Xiao Bai? She actually called her own brother Xiao Bai. Bai Qiu was drunk. His face was red as he slammed the table and shouted, I. In the future, I will suppress the old fogies at home, then grab the reincarnated body, go back, chop firewood, fetch water, dig the manure pit. Well, what reincarnation? That's too much. Wuxing Crocodile. Yang Qi. Lin Tian's face darkened. He was going to take him back to chop firewood, fetch water, and dig a manure pit. Be quiet. He and Bai Ziki pushed Bai Qiu down at the same time. No, I don't want it. In the future, I will suppress you. Bai Qiu struggled, slamming the table and shouting. Lin Tian, Bai Ziki, Wuxing Crocodile, and Yang Qi. The commotion caused by them wasn't small. Suddenly, many cultivators in the celestial land of immortals looked over. Seeing Bai Qiu's appearance at this time, many people were stunned. What a beautiful girl! Rare in the world. Indeed! Bai Qiu was already a stunning beauty. She was worthy of being called the first princess of the second heaven. Now that she was drunk, her face was flushed red, adding a hint of charm to it. There was a kind of pure temptation that was even more charming than usual. She's enough to be compared with that Zhang Yuji. In fact, she's even more beautiful. Someone said. Next to him, many people nodded in agreement. Who can be compared with me? Chapter 8:24. The woman who walked out of the pavilion was dressed in a red fox robe. Her skin was like jade, her figure was like a goddess, and her appearance could be said to be extremely beautiful. However, her expression was somewhat cold and aloof. Behind her followed an expressionless young man and 9 other cultivators. They all followed her lead. The entire celestial court of immortals suddenly fell silent. Many cultivators looked at the woman in awe and fear. Lin Tian and the others were sitting by the window. Yang Qi said in a deep voice, Zhang Yuji, from a large family in the 7th heaven. She is friends with Enlongjing's family. The two have been very close since childhood. Although they are not siblings, they are closer than siblings. Enlongjing and Zhang Yuji are both from the 7th heaven. After Enlongjing came to the 5th heaven, Zhang Yuji also followed. Naturally, other people from the 7th heaven also came to the 5th heaven. Therefore, some things naturally spread. Yang Qi arrived in the 5th heaven earlier than Lin Tian and the others, so he had already heard a lot of things before. Is it related to that chaos body? Wuxing Crocodile stared at Yang Qi. Yang Qi nodded silently and didn't say anything more. Lin Tian understood a little, but he didn't say anything. Drink! I want to drink more! Bai Qiu shouted. Lin Tian and Bai Ziki's faces darkened. This girl's alcohol tolerance was terrible, but she still dared to hold the wine jug and pour it into her mouth. At this time, the cold and aloof voice sounded again. Zhang Yuji's gaze fell on Bai Qiu. She could be compared to me, or even more beautiful. Her words were the comments made by the other cultivators in the celestial court of immortals about Bai Qiu. She roughly knew who they were talking about. At this time, she stared at Bai Qiu with a slightly moved expression. Obviously, she also found that Bai Qiu's appearance was indeed amazing. However, in the next moment, she smiled coldly. "Destroy her," she ordered the people behind her. Suddenly, two people walked out from behind her and stepped towards Lin Tian and the others with short blades in their hands. Many cultivators were moved. They clearly knew that the so-called "destroy her" was referring to Bai Qiu's face. At the same time, the hearts of the cultivators in the area trembled. Zhang Yuji was going to attack other cultivators in the city. The faces of Lin Tianyi and the others turned cold, especially Lin Tian and Bai Ziki. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. At this time, a person in charge of the heavenly court of the immortal land walked out. He was a half-step great Dao cultivator, and his face was full of respect. He came before Zhang Yuji and said carefully, "Princess Zhang, can you give me some face and not fight here? This will somewhat break the hidden rules of the city, and many fellow Taoists will feel uneasy." After entering the city, many cultivators had the same subconscious. There would not be any form of fighting in the city, and such a thing had indeed never happened before. Thus, many cultivators could truly feel at ease in the city. Now, if Zhang Yuji hurt someone here, it would have a great impact on the city, especially on the heavenly court of the immortal land. In the future, there may be fewer cultivators coming here. The person in charge naturally didn't want to see such a thing happen. "You want to stop me?" Zhang Yuji looked at the person in charge who walked out. The person in charge was a middle-aged man. Facing Zhang Yuji's eyes, he trembled slightly. "No, I don't dare. It's just that." As the person in charge here, the middle-aged man naturally knew the origin of Zhang Yuji. She came from a super family in the seventh heaven, and she was like a brother to the king of chaos and Longjing. Their relationship was extremely good, not to mention a small person like him. Even the real master of the heavenly court of the immortal land would be afraid of Zhang Yuji. "Then move away." Zhang Yuji's voice was cold. The middle-aged man opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he hesitated. He was really afraid of Zhang Yuji. Two cultivators walked out from behind Zhang Yuji. Both of them were young, and their cultivation bases had just reached the immortal ascension realm. They rushed towards Lin Tian and the others. The two of them stared at Bai Qiu in amazement, but then they sneered and sneered. Yang Qi said, "According to some things I heard, Zhang Yuji is not only cold and aloof, but also very narrow-minded. At first glance, I can tell that she has been spoiled by the adults in her family. Just because someone said that Bai Qiu was more beautiful than her, she actually wanted to disfigure Bai Qiu. How vicious!" Whooshing Crocodile sneered. At this time, the two young cultivators walked out from behind Zhang Yuji and came to the side of the table. Their daggers flashed with cold light, and they stabbed towards Bai Qiu's face. At the same time, they said coldly to Lin Tian and the others, "If you don't want to die, stand there obediently and don't move. Otherwise, bam, bam." Lin Tian and Bai Ziki attacked at the same time. Two faint lights flashed, and the two young cultivators with daggers were sent flying at the same time. They rolled for an unknown distance from the celestial land of immortals. Blood splattered all over the second level of the celestial land of immortals. It was a shocking sight. For a moment, the cultivators here were shocked. It seemed that the two cultivators who were sent flying were not going to live. Some of the cultivators here trembled and looked at Lin Tianyi and the others in shock. This group of people had actually killed people in this city. Moreover, they had killed the people around Zhang Yuji. That Zhang Yuji is from a big family in the seventh heaven, and she and the king of chaos are... How dare they? How dare they? Many cultivators' hearts palpitated. Zhang Yuji's face became even colder. Behind her, except for the expressionless young cultivator, Several other cultivators stepped out together and stared at Lin Tianyi and the others. The killing intent in their eyes was not concealed at all. How dare you fight back? The princess is merciful. She only wants her face, but she doesn't want it. You are courting death. Kill them. These cultivators' eyes were cold, and their cultivation bases weren't weak. They directly suppressed Bai Qiu and the others. In an instant, several tyrannical divine powers emerged. It was very shocking. Damn it. You call disfiguring people's faces benevolent? Do you really think that a big family from the seventh heaven is so great? You think you're so great with the protection of the King of Chaos? Do you think you can bully this Grandpa Crocodile and the others? Whooshing Crocodile directly attacked, smashing a young cultivator who rushed to the front with a claw. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Tian was even more direct. His sword light swept across, piercing through the other cultivators, killing them all. In this city, all the cultivators had a consensus that no form of fighting or killing should occur. Lin Tian and the others also knew this. However, someone attacked them first, wanting to disfigure Bai Qiu's face. Therefore, they naturally couldn't tolerate it. No matter what the other party's origin was, it was impossible to let them stay quietly. For a time, corpses were lying on their backs in the celestial land of immortals. Blood splattered everywhere, and the smell of blood intertwined. Suddenly, many cultivators in the celestial land of immortals trembled in horror. At this moment, these people were not only shocked that Lin Tian and the others dared to kill the people around Zhang Yuji in this city, but they were also shocked by the combat power of Lin Tian and the others. None of the cultivators who attacked were weak, but they were all killed in an instant. The middle-aged man in charge of the celestial land of immortals was shocked and anxious, but he couldn't do anything at this time. This matter now involves Zhang Yuji, and Zhang Yuji is from a super family in the seventh heaven. She has a very good relationship with Enlongjing with the chaotic body. They're like siblings. He couldn't change anything, and there was no room for him to intervene. Zhang Yuji's face sank slightly, but it didn't change much. She still looked cold and aloof, like a white swan high in the sky. Rongjin, take their heads, she said to the expressionless young man behind her, not even sparing a glance at the dead people. The young man was dressed in a black robe, and there was no emotion on his face. After hearing the order, he walked out, and a cold aura instantly spread out. This aura was not only cold, but also terrifying. It carried a strong fluctuation of Tao laws, causing many cultivators to tremble. He Rongjin, the ninth general who followed Enlongjing, the fifth heavenly layer of the great Tao. It is said that in the seventh heaven, this He Rongjin is also a genius. His combat power is extremely strong, and he can be called a king among his peers. This, the strongest of those people, seems to be only at the half-step Great Tao realm. They are dead for sure. It would be better if they didn't resist at first. Although they would be disfigured, at least they could save their lives, but now many people shook their heads. He Rongjin walked out, his face expressionless. He directly raised his hand and covered Lin Tianyi and the others under his palm. Suddenly, the entire celestial land of immortals shook, and many cultivators couldn't even stand steadily. Those people are finished. Someone shook his head with a trembling heart. A rumbling sound echoed. In the blink of an eye, He Rongjin's large hand arrived above Lin Tianyi and the others, indifferently and ruthlessly slapping down. With a crack, the large hand hadn't really landed, but the tables and chairs beside Lin Tian and the others collapsed first. Spirit fruits and lizard meat rolled down, and the wine jug smashed on the ground and broke open. The precious wine spilled all over the ground, and a rich wine fragrance wafted out. The whooshing crocodile was furious again. Damn it, I haven't finished my immortal wine yet. Its eyes were burning with anger. F***ck your grandfather, Lin Tian, smash him to death. There was no need for it to say more about this matter. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He directly waved his fist, and a golden fist flew up into the sky. With a rumbling sound, his golden fist collided with He Rongjin's large hand in the blink of an eye. Puff! Blood splashed out. dazzling everyone's eyes. Yirong Jin retreated. The large hand that pressed down was directly smashed to pieces, and blood splattered all over the ground. How is this possible? That Yirong Jin's arm was actually shattered. Everyone's expression changed. These people stared at Lin Tian as if they were looking at a monster. He seems to be only at the half-step Great Tao realm. How can his physique be so terrifying? He actually shattered the hand of Yirong Jin, who is at the fifth firmament of the Great Tao realm. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.